Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday. We got through to the end of the week. Kind of felt like a fast week, but also definitely felt a bit slower than last week. Last week, maybe because I was traveling, felt a bit quicker. But we're here. We're alive. It's been a pretty eventful week. It's the second trading week of 2026. A lot of different things happened. We didn't officially get too much progress on the S&P 500. We had a couple of breakouts. They ended up failing. The high beta names that we've been talking about since January have continued to gain a lot more momentum and excitement, and those names have done very well. ASTS in the overnight markets, congrats to those who own that. That's up 9%. I believe they have a allocation within the Golden Dome mega contract that was announced last night. ASTS right there up 7% after being up 6% during the day. So probably somebody knew that there was going to be that type of announcement. That's up 14% over the past couple of days. I think it's up 50% year to date, which is pretty damn incredible. So you got ASTS right there. Having a great day. Rocket Lab hit 92 yesterday. It's at, wow, 93.65. I didn't even see that in the pre-markets. 93.65 on Rocket Lab. That's up 3% right there. S&P 500 pushing 693. The Googs is up about 0.5%. AMD is up 3%, trying to get back above 235. Amazon, that's up 0.45. Zeta is up a little bit. Everything took a bit of a dip last night, or I should say, towards the end of the day at around 3:15, and you ended up having a red close on a majority of different stocks, getting a rebound in the pre-market. Now we'll see if that rebound holds. I don't think we have too much macro data today. We might have consumer sentiment. We did have PPI 2 days ago. That wasn't the best. CPI actually was better than PPI. We had new housing starts, which was good. We have some updates on Greenland, and we'll talk about sort of what's going on geopolitically, which I also think was a big story this week. We did not have any major military action, so that was something that wouldn't necessarily spook markets. But overall, I mean, it's been a relatively tame week when you look at different sectors. Bitcoin made a rebound yesterday, got to 97, back at 95, but at least it's holding above that 95 level. Tesla's up a little bit. VG breaking above that $8 range. Iren is up 1%. Reddit's up a little bit. Broadcom's up a little bit. AppLovin, which is like a nasty hit a couple days ago. That one's recovering a little bit, 0.5%. Palantir has been relatively flat. Now, Hood, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, or at least Hood and Coinbase, the crypto names got hit yesterday on crypto legislation once again being delayed. Hood getting a bit of a rebound right there, 2% in the pre-markets. But a lot of the stuff I think we'll see when the market actually opens and volume comes in, how these stocks are going to react given, pre-markets, we have a lot less volume, but we are seeing a rebound from yesterday. The big thing about today is that we have options expiring. And the options that are expiring today are going to be pretty massive. I don't think today is a quad witching day. I'm pretty sure that happens in March. Yeah, on the third Friday of March, June, September, December. So it's not a simultaneous expiration of single stock options, future options, index options. That's going to happen in March. But January 16th on the option chain for a variety of names. I think this one came out in late 2023. I remember I bought Hood options for January 16th, 2026 today. I ended up selling them way earlier, but that was back in 2023. So like this has been a date on the options chain across a variety of names that has been that has been available for a while for people to buy. So, I mean, I would just imagine there's going to be some wonky price action across the entire board. And so we're going to see what ends up happening today. But this is the second Friday of 2026. And we'll get through all the headlines and see how this ends up playing out. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Charles, June, Wadner, what's up, man? Thank you for being here. Tomas. Oh, let's do this. We haven't done this, I think, all this year. We haven't done this in 2026 yet. Where are you watching from? Put in the chat. Where are you watching from? Manavir, what's up? Quarantine Quartet. Krishna. Oh, yeah, it is the third Friday. Technically, it's the third Friday, 2026. Because 2026 started on a Friday, right? Which is weird. I remember that day felt like it was like a Monday, but it was a Friday. But we're live and we are here. JS says, I'm watching from the office at work. Okay. That's, I appreciate everyone who watches from work. I appreciate everyone who takes a chance to watch from work and hopefully doesn't get caught. I'm watching from Greenland. Oh my gosh. Boston, what's up? Seattle, Anaheim, California. I'm not doing the, I'm retiring the Ireland Dublin joke. I think the last time I did it was the most epic version of that joke. I will not do it again. Like, actually won't do it again. Although it wasn't, one day it'll come back out of retirement, but it's too soon. It's too soon today. South Carolina, Dallas, Walls, Europe. Jack says he's watching from Iran. I don't think there is a Jack in Iran. If there would be, I'd be surprised, but I'm calling cap on that. We got South Africa in the house, Greece, Florida, San Diego, 75 degrees, dude. It's like 20 degrees here. It's so freaking ugly in Jersey in terms of the cold. As I'm getting older, I kind of would like to live somewhere where there's just like, you don't have to deal with the cold, but you kind of have to deal with the cold if you're going to be near New York. We got Portugal in the house. We got Italy. We got Jose from Venezuela. Jose, what's up? Ray soon from New York. Yes, Ray will be here for the New York meetup. I will put the link in the chat again for those that want to show up. Very, very excited for it. We have like about 2 more weeks left, less than 2 weeks until the meetup. So very, very excited for it. And excited to see everyone who comes through. Philippines, Florida, Austria, Ottawa, Canada. I love it. We got Israel in the house, Ghana. Why can't there be a Jack in Iran? I don't know. I just feel like there probably could be. I just think the probability is lower. Time to Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore is kind of depressing, dude. Jersey Shore is not the best place. It's good for like a weekend. I don't know if I would live there. Sweden, South Korea, Charlotte, North Carolina. I love it, dude. Like seeing people across the world, it's amazing. Brazil, Panama, Alberta, Toronto. It's really, really freaking cool seeing people come across the world here. All right, let's get started. A lot to talk about, a lot to get into. I think we'll get started with kind of the big headline from yesterday, which is what we talked about on the market close, which was the BMNR shareholder meeting. You guys saw my reaction, talked about it with Steve. I think you guys saw Tanner's reaction, Tevis's reaction, not necessarily the most excited about what happened. The big announcement was Mr. Beast got a $200 million investment from Bitmine. I think the problem with the broader presentation was that it was just a little cringe in regards to the value proposition to what BMNR shareholders were getting from not only these moonshots, but from the way Tom is kind of thinking of building out the company. I don't know. It wasn't really impressive to me. And the problem is it doesn't change my thesis, which is why it's so frustrating, because it's like, I don't think any of this was necessary because the thesis is just Ethereum. But I can imagine in the early days of people investing in MicroStrategy, if Saylor was like, hey, we're going to take $1 billion and put it into like Kylie Jenner's lipstick brand over Bitcoin, people would just be like, what are you doing here? Right. It's a very sort of confusing mechanism of allocation of capital. And then the way Tom described it was not really that interesting. It was more so just like, hey, like Mr. Beast is a big creator, we need to invest in him. So it was a little weird. I don't really know what the future of it entails outside of following the future price action of ETH. I mean, ETH has been looking relatively healthy. I mean, it's gotten above that 3,000 level and it stayed above it. Same thing with Bitcoin. So if this can get a breakout, obviously I think BMNR will benefit. But just universally, especially on the introduction video that Tom Lee had no idea what the video was going to look like because they wanted to surprise him. Well, the video had a penguin in it. And at the end of the day, we're not 17-year-olds. We're all a little bit more mature as an investor class. And so I think it rubbed a lot of people off the wrong way. It was very self-aggrandizing. It just, I don't know. But in 5 years, if ETH is at 10,000, like, does it really matter? Probably not. So it's one of those things where I think you have to look past a lot of this stuff if you are going to continue to be a shareholder. But I think there really were a lot of people yesterday that were just not excited about what people said. We can watch that intro again when markets get toppy. Yes, that's what we're going to have to do. So, I mean, we'll see how the market broadly reacts to it. But also Vitalik and Sam Altman weren't there yesterday, and they said they were going to be there. I don't know if there's like a second day of the shareholder meeting, but I didn't really see those two guys that I think are relatively important for the ETH ecosystem show up. So I guess we'll find out if they do show up eventually. But yeah, overall was not a fan of it. I really thought it could have just been a 30-minute presentation that was a lot more direct and to the point. And I just thought it was a little hypey for no reason. But that was my thoughts on what we had for BitMine. ASTS. So this was a pretty big piece of news that came out yesterday. Again, if you're in this name, valuation's up there. It's hard to say $40 billion company. Valuation's not up there, but they continue to win more contracts and awards. ASTS Space Mobile wins prime IDIQ role on U.S. Missile Defense Shield program. As you can see right here, the SHIELD program supports the Golden Dome strategy for layered homeland defense. Rocket Lab, Palantir, Anduril, SpaceX, all these companies are also rumored to be playing a major role in the Golden Dome, which is, I think, like it's like I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but it's like a 30 billion, 20-year project. So there's a lot of money to go around to be able to build this. The contract enables ASTS to pursue future task orders under multi-award framework. Its selection validates a dual on-use orbit technology. It leverages LEO satellites with large commercial phased arrays in orbit. And because ASTS Space Mobile is 95% vertically integrated, it is why they're likely getting these contracts. And it, meaningfully highlights the demand for commercial space defense capabilities within the United States. So this stock got a lot of love. I mean, this thing fell to $35 back in September from 70 after SpaceX announced a acquisition of a different spectrum company. And since then, it's just been on a tear. $25, I think it got to back in May of 2025. This stock, if you look at the max chart on this thing, it was a junk stock for a long time, as you can see right there. Went public in 2020 at 13, fell all the way to $1.97 in 2024 when the bull market had already begun. And then since then, if you kept up with the story, you've been heavily, heavily rewarded with it. So ASTS right there, $108. I don't know if this price action can hold, just because I'm pretty sure there'll be some sellers that step in and say, hey, I need to take some profits on something that's trading at 2,000 times sales. But these contracts should be worth many, many billions, which should start to justify the $37 billion market cap. And, that probably gets a lot more people that are coming in. The good thing is if you're, full on space mob and you've been in this thing for a while, you really don't have a reason to sell. I mean, maybe taking out some of your initial, maybe trimming to capture some profits, but getting out of the position when it feels like the story, quite frankly, is just starting for an ASTS and quite frankly for a Rocket Lab. The selling pressure probably doesn't have to be there, at least from the OGs. For the people that are trading this thing, if your average is like 105 on ASTS, maybe you think a little bit more differently about it. By the way, yes, the market is closed on Monday. I did not know that. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do on Monday. I forgot it's MLK Day on Monday, and I was like, wait a second. That means the market's closed. So I don't know what I'm doing on Monday. Going to be walking around trying to find purpose in life. But yeah, markets will be closed on Monday. So we won't be here. Would you short ASTS? I don't know if I'd short them. The problem with the amount. So first of all, we did a deep dive on ASTS like 7 months ago with us, Ann Panman, the guy who's like the leader of this ASTS cult. And he's done it in a way that is just really rooted in deep due diligence. Every time I go on his tweets and I read what he's posting, I mean, he is finding the most obscure things about this company that valuation-wise, yeah, it feels like a short, but then like catalyst-wise, which there will be more catalysts in the future, especially given they're in their growth phase, it's hard to be in front of a train like that. So now the valuation, again, it's tough to put net new capital here just because if the S&P corrects, ASTS, Rocket Lab, all these guys are correcting with it. And one could argue the S&P is due for a little bit of a correction. But being net short as a position, I think is tough given how many catalysts are there. So I probably wouldn't short this. But I also wouldn't short Rocket Lab. Although, again, Rocket Lab, I tell you, Rocket Lab's having a Palantir valuation, almost 80 times price of sales. Rocket Lab, it feels like it wants to go to 100 before it ever corrects, which it deserves to. It would be very special to see Rocket Lab at $100. So ASTS is literally only just breaking out. Yeah, I agree. Like the chart also, again, sometimes you got to ignore valuation when you look at these charts. Like it really, the Jason felt the same as well. ASTS and Rocket Lab both, they have momentum. And what happens when SpaceX IPOs and ASTS is kind of normalized, maybe like $80 to $100 as a range? Like, I feel like that's going to be another big catalyst as well. I think Lunar, Redwire, all these names. Yeah, Lunar's up another 2%. Redwire as well, 4%, as those have been holding on. But yeah, Monday, markets are closed, so we won't be here. but we'll be back on Tuesday and we'll figure out what to do with our lives on Monday. Grab up 4%. The pre-markets, obviously a pretty ugly day for Grab yesterday, down about 5%. You got a lot of people on X start new positions in Grab. They've been waiting for a decline. They've been talking about it. I don't know if this pre-market move is legit. I think easily when the market's open, Grab could dump again from this 4% range. So if it holds up 4%, that'd be nice. That means maybe that 435 was the bottom. If we lose 435, we're heading to 420. But if anyone got in at 435 yesterday and started your position, then maybe you did get the absolute bottom. But, you know, it's pre-markets, not a lot of volume. So we'll see when the market opens if this one can actually hold on. Where are ETH and Bitcoin? Ethereum 3300. You got BTC at 95.4. The Googs is up about 0.5%, and then AMD up 2.6%. Zeta got a little bit of a dump yesterday. This one trying to recover a bit, 2230 to 2158 now at 2170. That is up 0.5%. Okay, cool. So that was the ASTS news. We have a bunch of different AI headlines that we can pull up and take a look at. First of all, take a look at this. This AI bubble stuff feels like it's not really a thing anymore. This is the Google searches for AI bubble. It kind of peaked in November when the S&P was correcting, and now it's back down to relatively tame levels. So, I mean, you got a lot more people thinking that maybe the sort of concern of AI being a bubble is not as big of a concern anymore, which is a good thing because the earnings that we're seeing probably justify AI not being a bubble. And you're seeing this from a lot of different companies. So Micron got an upgrade today, pretty massive upgrade in the memory space to $400. On top of that, and this stuff, I mean, this is pretty interesting. A director for the first time since 2022 bought Micron at $337. And not just a little bit, almost $8 million, 23,000 shares at $337. And this is not like, oh, he got his shares at 5 cents and it was options that he that he's exercising. It's like, no, he like straight up bought shares at $337. And you coincide this with the multiple Micron upgrades they got this week. I think one from Oppenheimer at 450, one from JP Morgan at 400. Yeah, of course, this thing's up 4% of the pre-market. Like insiders buying is literally for one reason. Again, insiders sell for like a trillion reasons, but they buy for one reason. The stock has to go up, or at least the perception is the stock has to go up. So I don't know. I mean, like you got a lot of concerns around cyclicality here, but you also have an HBM super cycle that we're in, which is leading to a lot of momentum for Micron. So Micron, SanDisk, all these names continue to be some of the hottest names of the year. Meta, Truist says 875. They say Meta's valuation at 20 times PE versus Google and Amazon at 30 already reflects much of those fears, but fails to reflect its potential to grow faster for longer, upside to catch up in AI. For this first quarter, we expect both the revenue and CapEx, OpEx guide to bracket consensus estimates. Meta has got a couple of different upgrades from the street around this range, which makes sense. I mean, we all know Meta's cheap. The question is, will Zucks impress the street with the roadmap for CapEx on ROI or ROI on CapEx? But it's getting an upgrade into the $800 range. And then again, going back to this idea of there's no AI bubble, NVIDIA $275 at Jefferies. Broadcom is their top pick. But once again, they think NVIDIA remains pretty cheap, trading at mid-teens based on a calendar 2027 estimate. We are positive on the GP server growth for AMD throughout the year, expecting both strong market growth and share gains. They are bullish on all the semis. TSM, again, that was the big story yesterday. Just a massive, massive, massive earnings. TSM right there up 1% in the pre-markets, and they deserve to be up. They beat revenue guidance by $2 billion. They beat gross margin guidance by 5%. That is not easy to do. And I feel like we just expect these companies to do it, but the way they're executing, I mean, the fact that we're alive to witness this stuff is just unbelievable. And then you have this catalyst right here that Trump is lowering tariffs to 15% in Taiwan. And as a result, Taiwan is pledging to invest $250 billion. So you're getting a lowering of tariffs, which is a good thing, but you're also getting Taiwan ready to invest. Lutnick came on yesterday and basically said that this is going to create a lot more jobs in the United States. This is good for Amcor, Intel, obviously NVIDIA, AMD, TSM. The AI trade looks like it's on. It looks like it's not going to be fading anytime soon. So yeah, those bubble narratives, I don't know. I feel like they've died out, and now we just have to see more growth for this party to continue. Bitcoin right there, 95,400. Also, Grab got upgraded this morning to 620 by HSBC. So again, I mean, every institutional analyst that I've seen has a 620 to 750. The highest on the street is $8 target. Either all of them are wrong and all of us are wrong. This thing's going to $2, or it's hopefully close to bottoming. So eventually we will find out. Okay, so that's what we have there. Rocket Lab got an upgrade to 105 today as well by Morgan Stanley. They are all taking her higher, 93.32 in the pre-markets, as that one continues to get upgraded. It got a second upgrade by Cantor Fitzgerald up to 90. SanDisk, wow, I didn't even know that was up 5%. SanDisk is up another 5% along with Micron. SanDisk is reports indicate President Trump will propose technology. Oh yeah, this was a big deal. So Trump is potentially proposing technology, proposing today that technology companies fund new power plants, boosting infrastructure-related tech stocks. AKA that argument he had about Microsoft like needing to pay for data centers. Yeah, Trump is potentially saying, well, I'm going to literally force these companies now to pay for this stuff. And I mean, if that is the case, then that's going to be pretty incredible. In fact, you can see this one right here off this headline. This came out late last night. Trump and several Northeast governors are pushing PJM, the nation's largest grid operator, to run an emergency reliability auction that would let tech and hyperscalers bid for 15-year contracts tied to building new generation, which could support roughly 15 billion of new power plants. So I think Trump is kind of serious on this idea of trying to keep energy costs low and not have it to be as aggressive based on the whole data center stuff, which he should be, because like that's good for the average American. But this potentially is really good for the energy infrastructure plays, which also really matters. Riot, are they up in the pre-markets? I think we have a headline with Riot. Wow, up 8%. I guarantee it's some type of data center technology deal. Riot, what do we got? What is the deal here? Riot and AMD. There you go. Riot acquires Rockdale land and signs first data center lease with AMD. Riot used to be a Bitcoin miner. They've transitioned into an AI HPC play. Riot signs 10-year data center lease with AMD. 25 megawatt deployment completing of May of this year. Contract value is $311 million. These guys' market cap is $6 billion, so it's a decent chunk. It could be $1 billion with extension. AMD holds options expanding capacity to 200 megawatts total. And Riot's portfolio is now 1.7 gigawatts in Texas. And I think, yeah, this Rockdale land is in Texas. Wow, AMD signing a 10-year data lease. I mean, again, it goes to show if these companies had the capacity to be able to do their own data center outsourcing of land and infrastructure, they would do it, right? AMD, NVIDIA, Meta, Microsoft. The reason they're signing with Nebius and Riot and Cypher and Wolf and Iren is because there's just way more demand, and it's a part of their stack that they don't need to focus on, nor should they focus on, because they have to focus on building technology. But the infrastructure is needed. I think that's why utilities have led the S&P 500 this year, although tech has not led the S&P 500. If you looked at various utility stocks, which actually had a pretty good run last year for the first time in like a decade, because there's this whole new renaissance of energy infrastructure that's needed. Those are the companies that are benefiting. Riot right there up 7.8%. Mr. Beast is going to sign with AMD now. Oh my gosh. There you go. The problem with these pumps, though, on these like Bitcoin miners turned AI plays is that it gets faded really quick. So I mean, this is a pretty good deal. $311 million contract value on a $6 billion market cap. It shouldn't get faded too hard. But I mean, it could, because it happens more often than not. So that's what we got with Riot. Chris, thanks for the super chat. Did you see that Canada announced a $1 trillion trade deal with China? Canada will be importing China EVs. Yes, I did see that actually. Let's transition into that topic. So, I mean, Canada and China are trying to get a bit more friendly. And I don't know if the United States is going to love it, but here's the update exactly on what's going on here.
Members of his cabinet, he's got the ministers of industry, foreign affairs, natural resources, international trade, and agriculture. Plus, he's got the premier of Saskatchewan here. And they were all officially welcomed in the Great Hall of the People by China's #2 in command, Premier Li Qiang. National anthems were followed by an inspection of a military honor guard. And then to business. With Carney and Li looking on, all those ministers signed multiple new or renewed agreements between the two countries on a host of issues. There was a memorandum of understanding to boost exports of Canadian pet food to China, a renewed commitment to fight crime, and promises to boost two-way tourism. Ministers signed agreements on energy and on plans to boost the use of Canadian wood in home construction. But despite the presence of Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe at a meeting between Carney and Lee, no agreement has emerged, at least so far, to drop Chinese tariffs on Canadian canola. And even though Carney met earlier today with officials from the world's largest maker of electric vehicle batteries, Canada has not budged on its policy of high tariffs on Chinese EVs.
Here's what Carney had to say yesterday about the partnership.
What we do now is Canada. How we position ourselves in the world will shape our future for decades to come. Canada can thrive in a new system, but to do so, we must be ambitious. We must work at speed and scale to find new partners, to diversify our trade and attract unprecedented levels of investment in our country. And we must be pragmatic. That means we have to understand the differences between Canada and other countries, and then focus our efforts to work together where we're aligned. And it's with this approach that Canada is forging a new strategic partnership with China. What we do now is...
I mean, look, Canada does a lot of business with China. They're obviously going to have to work with China. Now, the United States also does business with China. The United States interacts with Canada. There's obviously a sort of complex triangle between all three countries. I think the other quote from Carney yesterday was like, we need to embrace the new world order that we are entering into, which I think a lot of people are like, well, what exactly is he talking about? But I mean, he's going to have to look out for his country and look out for his people. And if he can lower tariffs on a lot of different products and obviously be in a position to export a lot more, as you know, China is the biggest exporter. If Canada can become a stronger exporter and not have to deal with as many tariffs, obviously that would be a good thing. Now, I don't know what Trump's take is going to be on this, but nonetheless, Canada is looking out for themselves as a sovereign nation. Chinese Commerce Minister said China, Canada agreed to properly resolve economic and trade concerns in a statement. I'm sure we'll get a lot more details on what this looks like. But yeah, I mean, theoretically, it could be bullish Xpeng. It could be bullish a lot of EVs if the tariffs are dropped on those, because right now those have pretty massive EVs when it comes to them being imported from China. I don't know. I don't know if Trump's going to hate this too much. I don't think there's anything that dramatic that kind of threatens the types of negotiations that Trump has had with the Chinese. But, you know, Canada's got to do what they think is right for them. S&P 500 right there up about 0.14%. Let's actually look at Xpeng. We haven't looked at the stock in a minute. $20.88. Okay, that's basically where it was towards the end of last year. Year to date, it's up 2%. Last year was up 50%, kind of ended the year around that $20 price as well. Okay, so that's what we have on Canada. Let's see some other macro updates as we get into this Friday. Take a look at this. 2025 active ETF flows were $273 billion versus $787 billion in mutual funds. So you're getting a lot more active flows coming in towards these ETFs. We looked at something similar to this a couple of days ago from Goldman Sachs. The money market fund flows actually decreased by $73 billion yesterday, $74 billion, which is good. Some of that money is coming off the sidelines. Maybe it's going into Oklo or some of these high beta names, but you still have 7.7 trillion on the sidelines, even though you do have a decline of 74 billion from those money market funds. Now, Greenland, this is also something that I think is continuing to become very, very important. The White House press secretary yesterday, Caroline Leavitt, she continued to double down on the idea that the United States is very serious about this. Again, the EU, Greenland's prime minister, Denmark has all come out and said, like, this cannot happen. This will not happen. Whereas Caroline Leavitt is like, no, it very much has a chance to happen. And so the question is going to be, you know, does this actually play out in the way that people think it's going to play out, or is it going to be a completely different way that the United States goes after this? And quite frankly, when you listen to how Trump talks about it, it feels like it's very seriously going to happen. But the ramifications of it happening, along with the $700 billion price tag that people are estimating it will cost feels a bit weird. Here's what Carolyn Levitt had to say about it yesterday.
Conversations about acquiring Greenland.
Well, the Vice President and the Secretary of State were present for that meeting. And the meeting, it was a productive meeting. It was a good meeting. And in that meeting, the two sides agreed to really establish a working group of individuals who will continue to have technical talks on the acquisition of Greenland. Those talks will take place, I'm told, every 2 to 3 weeks. So this is a conversation the administration intends to keep having with the Danes and with the respected delegation from Greenland. But the president has made his priority quite clear. He wants the United States to acquire Greenland. He thinks it's in our best national security to do that.
I have no idea how this market reacts if we actually try to do this thing. My gut tells me we're not going to, but then when you listen to Trump talk about it, he really is serious about it. I don't know. I think it's gonna be aggressive. Like, in a world in which Trump is trying to pass the great healthcare plan, which is something he introduced yesterday, I mean, there's going to be a lot of political capital that's necessary to get an entirely new healthcare system passed through Congress, which I really doubt he's going to be able to do. And then you want to take over a country. Like, I think there's just a lot. And then you want to cap credit card rates at 10%. You want to print $200 billion of mortgage-backed securities from Fannie and Freddie. Like, there's just so many things that he's throwing at the wall, and I don't know if he has enough political capital to actually get this stuff done. But obviously, he is trying to get into a lot of different parts of the ecosystem. And I mean, a lot of it goes back to the midterms and, you know, what people are going to perceive for the midterms. But right now, I don't know if that perception is anything healthy for the United States. Amcor right there, that's up 2.4. Netflix is up 0.43. NVIDIA did try to break to 190 yesterday, then got rejected. NVIDIA again being stuck right below this 190 level, which has been incredible. Circle got hit yesterday as well with Coinbase and Robinhood. That one's getting a little bit of a rebound. I ran from 54 to 51, now at 52 in the pre-markets. And then you got Nebius right there at 106.44. We haven't heard from Kathy in a pretty long time. She's live. Let's see what Mrs. Wood has to say for 2026.
Becky and Joe. So yes, last year, Morningstar in the Morningstar rankings, I think we had 3 of the top 5 or 4 of the top 5 were ARK funds top performing. Of course, we had 2 big corrections. We had the trade turmoil in April. That was an amazing buying opportunity. And what we do typically is concentrate towards our highest conviction names when we have an opportunity like that. We did that. Same with the government shutdown. That was a little less severe. What did we learn? Well, you know, one of the things that we've learned over the last few years is we can see inflation coming down clearly, but in the reported numbers, it is stuck. And I think a lot of people are wondering, wait a minute, this market is near record high valuations. How can this be? This is a setup for a correction. And we're looking at other periods in history. If you look into the 90s up to 97, I think it was, and in the 2000s, the early 2000s, we had very strong markets as the multiple moved down. So what does last year teach us? We must assume that valuations are going to compress, and we do. We do that in our bottom-up analysis for every company. But we're pretty excited about the inflation outlook thanks to oil prices, housing prices big time. You see the home builders, KB Home cutting its prices by 7% and others following. And productivity gains, unit labor costs coming down dramatically. I think on a year-over-year basis, they're up 1.2%, but the last quarter reported they were actually negative. So there are a lot of deflationary pressures, and the last one I'll cite is technology. Our focus is exclusively on technologically enabled innovation. And in each of the 5 major platforms, robotics, energy storage, artificial intelligence, especially blockchain technology and multi-omic sequencing, healthcare, I saw the CEO of Bio, very good. Those are all very deflationary in their impact. So pretty excited. We think the surprises are going to be on the low side of inflation expectations.
Tesla has always been one of your big holdings. You know, in terms of just sales, obviously things have been challenged. But there's a lot of excitement about autonomy. There's a lot of excitement about the Optimus robot. What is your sense of where things stand at Tesla right now?
Yes, the EV sales environment has been challenged, but the market is shifting its focus to the robotaxi opportunity. So we're moving from 15% gross margins in autos, the hardware, to more of a SaaS model where robotaxis, recurring revenue model, is those margins are more in the 70s and 80s. And I think as analysts understand that that's where Tesla is going, and they start building in the model for robotaxis, they see a tremendous opportunity. So it's been interesting to me to see upgrades, even by some auto analysts, now that they're beginning to understand that this is not an auto company. Maybe they're working with their tech analysts and understanding the stock a bit better.
So when you think, though, about autonomous robotaxis and you think about robots, what does that look like? And is there an argument? Look, some of the critics would say, you know, the cars aren't working the way they're supposed to be working right now in terms of what's happening with the EV market. And some of these other ambitious efforts are going to take a long time to get to a meaningful escape velocity.
Well, we're keeping an eye on how quickly Tesla's footprint is expanding here. And it's expanding a lot faster, I think, than many people expected. And it's interesting to watch Waymo as well. We draw in Texas, we draw the footprint, and they're competing with each other. Competition is a good thing. So I think this is actually going to happen faster than most analysts think. In terms of the proliferation of robotaxis, especially if we get more federal legislation instead of just state by state. On the Optimus robot side, there's a lot of excitement in robotics. That in the private markets has been a huge space this past year. We look at an Optimus robot. Our chief futurist, Brett Winton, working with Sam and Daniel, have concluded that an Optimus robot is going to be 200,000 times more difficult to get working correctly relative to a robotaxi. So you'll have waves of Optimus improving with time, but full human is going to be quite difficult. Nonetheless,
I mean, this is what, you know, a lot of people are excited around for Tesla. Elon tweeted this yesterday. It's him dancing with an Optimus. It most likely is AI, but as you can see, this is what the Tesla ecosystem is excited for. We heard Jason Calacanis yesterday kind of getting really excited about this as well. I think the biggest thing that Kathy's right about when it comes to this is the idea of deflation. And there's two angles to the deflationary story. One is oil prices, which again, the Venezuela stuff continues to contribute to. But the second is just technology being more deflationary. ARK, although it sucked over the past 5 years, it's down 42%. Last year, it was up 40%. So this was more a question of timing. But if you got in at the beginning of last year, it almost tripled the S&P 500, or it doubled the S&P 500. But it wasn't a horrible return last year, as Robinhood, Tesla, Coinbase, a lot of those names continue to be pretty big winners. I'm seeing a headline that ClickHouse, which Nebius has a 28% stake in, has officially raised $15 billion. I believe that, that is true. That's Bloomberg. That's Bloomberg. ClickHouse lands $15 billion valuation in AI data base raise. All right, so then Nebius has $2.4 billion then, I think, or $3 billion roundabout of an equity stake, which I don't know. I feel like this should matter for Nebius. Nebius right there up about 2%. So Nebius continues to be one of the more undervalued data center plays that's out there. I mean, just the pure diversity of its business and how they're scaling. They're going to go from 300 million to 7 billion in ARR this year. I don't know. I think this one is cheap, but obviously this thing could gap back down to 90 very easily with the rest of the data center plays. So the timing here is important, but it looks like ClickHouse, as per Bloomberg, officially raises at 15 billion. Yeah, they have about 25% of ClickHouse or more. 4.2 billion stake did not get diluted. Wow. All right, Nate. Nate's the one who introduced me to Nebius. I mean, that's a hell of an equity stake just by making a strategic investment. So there you go. That's what we have for Nebius. All right, we got about 4 minutes until this market opens. We got through most of the main headlines. We don't have anything else that's too crazy here. We don't have any politics stuff in regards to the shutdown coming out yet, just the healthcare stuff that was introduced yesterday. Tesla did get a 5-week extension in the probe for FSD traffic violations from the NHTSA. So they'll have a little bit more time to navigate that. Elon did say subscriptions for FSD are going to become monthly only. And you can't buy a lifetime one after February 14th. So that is also something that's there. as Tesla gets that extension. Hassett says we've been in touch with big banks on credit cards. Hassett says there'll be a great new Trump card from the bank. Wow. Okay. Trump cards. Imagine the banks come out with a Trump card that is a capped 10% APR that people can apply for. That would be crazy, bro. I mean, if that's what Hassett is signaling, that would be absolutely wild. Rock Lab right there. That's up 2%. Tesla's up 0.35. SanDisk up 4. Tesla tried to make a breakout to 450 yesterday, then got rejected towards the end of the day. So maybe if the market reverses, we'll see if that happens. Can't get a Robinhood. Get me the Trump card. I mean, that's true. If Vladdy can't send out these cards to everybody, then people are going to be applying for these Trump cards. Again, Robinhood, for those that were asking why this one got hit yesterday, I think it was because of the crypto ledger. Look at that. Look at that red candle pre-market. It was at 113, 111.67. Dude, I do not trust anything in the pre-market anymore. The pre-market has broken my heart more times than I can imagine. Same thing with Grab. Like, it's up 5%. I would not be surprised if it dumps right when the market opens. But Robinhood got hit hard yesterday, dude. 7% is no joke. It got hit hard on crypto legislation, which theoretically shouldn't even be that big of a deal for Robinhood. Like, I mean, like, yeah, they play a role with crypto, but they're not like the crypto company. So the fact that it's so tied to the crypto stuff is ridiculous. But it's something you got to watch out for, especially if Bitcoin and Ethereum continue to be stuck and legislation continues to take a bit of a hit. It hit Coinbase yesterday and Circle as well. So we'll see if those rebound. Coinbase, yeah, same red candle on Coinbase as you had on Hood is the same on Circle. A little bit lighter on Circle, but still flipped red. So we're going to see today how this plays out. Oh, yeah, red or green. Let me do the red or green poll. What are people thinking? I don't know. We had 2 red days. Some of those names got really hit in the red days. Other names kind of like Rocket Lab, you wouldn't imagine we had 2 red days this week. I kind of think we end up flat again. If I had to pick, maybe a little green just as a rebound, but if momentum is to the downside, then maybe we continue to see it go red. Bitcoin just went green. Okay, a little bit of green candle right there on Bitcoin, 95.3 to 95.6. Was at 97 yesterday as well. It is Friday. Yeah. Oh, it's a long weekend too. I mean, some people just might not want to hold stocks over a 3-day weekend. So that's something to watch out for. All right, here we go. Friday, January 16th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Hoodie goes red. You cannot trust the pre-markets. Robinhood now at 110. I mean, if they're going to take her to 100, let's see if they do it. 109, loses 110 at the open. Grab, is that holding the 5% move? Okay, that's actually holding it. It actually got to 460. Let's see if it can continue. 453 on Grab. SanDisk up 4%. Rocket Lab, my goodness. She wants 100. She wants 100. Micron 360. Micron wants 400. Tesla 442. Nebius 105. Meta a little bit of a bounce from 620 yesterday. Bloom Energy, she's not slowing down either. That's up 3%. I think it's up like 50% year to date now. Navitas, that's up 4%. Intel trying to get back up to 50. Marvell at 8207. SMCI 2908. Coherent, that's up 2%. HIMS goes red. Critical Metal CRML 1744. That is green. ASTS has to be moving with Rocket Lab. ASTS is indeed moving with Rocket Lab. 109.76. That's up 8.4% on the day after getting a new contract last night. And that one's getting some love. Circle goes red. Coinbase goes red. CrowdStrike 456. That's a little green. Duolingo once again goes red. If this falls below 150, it's going to be quite incredible. Ondas signed an agreement this morning. I don't have the exact details. We'll get in a second, but that's up 9%, hitting I think this got to $15 on Monday, then fell to like 12, now back at $13.95. So that one is green. Rigetti, that's up 2%. D-Wave is up 2%. IONQ is up 2%. The quantum stocks are moving. Microsoft continues to fall. 456. This is below 460. Where's Apple? Are we at 260? We're at 258. How about Amazon, we are at 238. This one continues to be flat. Tesla, a little bit of a bounce at 441. And then Google, 335. Google, 331. Google's actually red on the day. Palantir getting a nice move. The 182.50 options on the calls were getting bid up a couple days ago. So we just hit 182.20. I mean, maybe those call buyers end up going in the money. 181.77 right there. That's up 2.7%. I don't think there's a big Palantir announcement. Nothing I saw last night. Jamie Dimon was at the DC office with Mike Gallagher. That was pretty cool. He actually, I mean, look at this. He was holding a freaking Palantir ontology hoodie. It was so epic. I don't know if that's what's making the stock move higher right now, but it was pretty cool to see that. Palantir right there at 182 now. As we get into this market open, Amazon 238, Apple 258, Exxon and Chevron are up. Fubo's down. USAR, that's down. Where is Oscar on this healthcare stuff? That is also down about 1.5%. Lemonade just had a bit of a rocky week, 80.65. That's up a little bit. Ethereum, that is 3,300. BMNR goes red, down about 2.3. Down about 2.3. VG, this one's had a great week. Look at her go, 833. I know a lot of us were buying this thing in December at around 630, 640. Many people below that price. Derek, he loves the stock. He's big into it. 835, that's up 4.5%. Let's see if we can hold this 830 range, maybe break above 850. Zeta, are we getting a move? Zeta 21. Wow. All right, so they're dumping Zeta. Seems like people are absolutely taking their profits right here, down about 2.2% on Zeta, 21.10, as that one goes red on the day by about 2%, fell 4% yesterday. Google just flipped green, Tesla just flipped green, Ondas still green, Apple green, and then Amazon is green. Now, the problem with the SaaS names is that they continue to get hit. My goodness, Salesforce below 230. Oh, I mean, that's probably why Zeta is dumping as well. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a SaaS name. Adobe, another 1% down. All the SaaS names today getting hit. CrowdStrike and Palantir are the only ones holding up. Snowflake, Confluent, a little bit of green. Palantir up 2%. Datadog, Mongo, Adobe, ServiceNow, Cloudflare, Zscaler, Intuit. Yeah, SaaS is getting dumped. SaaS is getting dumped. OSS, this stock, 1080. That's been relatively flat for the past couple of days. Palantir still holding 180. Tesla, nice 443 move. It peaked at 443.70 yesterday. Then it got dumped down to 438. So that's very nice to see a little bit of a reversal there as some of the buyers are stepping in. Micron 360 grab, holding on to that 450 range. Robinhood below 110. Nebius goes red. Is Iren going red? Reddit. Iren is not going red. Divergence there from Iren and Nebius. ASTS, again, big contract last night. Potential in the Golden Dome, 113. You know, I was thinking of buying a little bit of ASTS after hours yesterday after I saw the contract move, but it was up 8%. I was like, I probably shouldn't, but I kind of just felt the momentum would not stop, and the momentum is not stopping yet. 113 on ASTS after being up 12% yesterday. So that's 24% in 2 days. 24% in 2 days. AppLovin, why does this stock keep getting hit? I don't know. Their SEC probe is an issue, but it's kind of old news at this point. 602. Let's see if Zeta breaks below 2050. If it breaks below 2050, I have no problem adding more, but let's see if we can actually get her down to those levels, or if she retains 21. Rocket Lab wants to go to 100. We know that Rocket Lab wants to go to 100. Let me check resistance on some of these names. So, AppLovin is also software. You're right. I mean, it's just growing way. I mean, the AppLovin's growing 70%. I think it's 77% in the latest quarter. So I feel like AppLovin should get a pass based on the growth. None of the other software names besides Palantir are growing at that level. At 100 for Rocket Lab, you are looking at 709,000 shares in resistance as NVIDIA breaks above 190. So it's a good chunk of shares that are waiting for 100, but maybe we have a chance to get there. NVIDIA right there, back above 190. That's up 1.6%. VG, again, that one continuing to move, 835. That's up 5%. Meta, 625. That's up. As Adobe continues to get hit. let's see a couple of these other names that are moving pretty hard. A lot of the small caps continue to get the beta that excites them and gives them some more momentum. T1 Energy, this one has also been a big winner. Got hit yesterday, but continues to hold on to its level. Planet Labs, that's up 3%. Hims looking like it wants to go below 30. Spotify increased subscriptions. That's why it was up. Poet has had a good week. Caterpillar, great week as well. Beyond Meat introduced energy drinks yesterday. It's called like Beyond Energy. It's a little weird, but yeah, Beyond Meat is now getting into the energy game. Okay, NVIDIA finally breaking above 190. 194, 195 range would be very nice. BMNR below 30. Hassett just said Trump can put 10% tariff right away after SCOTUS rules. Okay, so you got Hassett commenting on all the different stuff that would happen if the SCOTUS rules in that way. Seriously, yes, seriously. Beyond Meat is seriously doing energy. By the way, Bernstein said UNH is their top pick for next year or for this year. They think that is their top pick. They have a $444 price target. Where is UNH on this one? UNH right here, 331. That's down about 2%. Is there meat in the drinks? That's a good question. That's a very good question. ASTS right there, 111. VSAT, this one's moving up 3% on the day, $6 billion company. Copen, this one is also 15%. Again, the theme of the past couple of weeks it's been small caps. If you've been in a large cap, you've had to fight for your gains. If you've been in a small cap, it's like taking candy from a baby. It's just like they're going up. And a lot of them with good reason. Like ASTS, right? And ASTS is not really a small cap, but a lot of them, if they have the high beta and they have any level of narrative attached to it, it is very 2021-esque in regards to the thematic themes are the ones that are winning, but it's different from 2021 in that the reasoning behind the themes being in favor, like drones. There's a big autonomous warfare super cycle that we're going through where drones are in high demand. So it makes sense why Red Cat or Ondas or Kratos are getting a bid. Whereas in 2021, whatever theme was in favor of the month, that those stocks would go up. And I think there were no contracts, there was no revenue, there was nothing associated with it. There was just super high valuations. Now there's super high valuations, but there's something deeper associated with it. Obviously, energy is another example. The big theme associated with it is AI and the necessity for data centers. NVIDIA right there, 190. SKYT. Sam talked about this a couple of days ago. Skywater Technology. They are part of the semiconductor ecosystem as well. I believe it's chip testing, if I'm not wrong. 3276. That's up another 2%. Rocket companies, that's up 3.4. Market rates go down. That's going to be good for them. Micron, 10 million shares in volume. Again, an insider, wow, 7%. An insider bought Micron for the first time yesterday since 2022. He bought $8 million worth of stock at 337. Micron is now a $400 billion company. I think Micron does 40 billion of revenue, if I'm not wrong. 37.38 billion. Okay. All right, 10 times sales. I mean, is that crazy for a company growing net income at 100%? Probably not. I mean, probably not. Wow, AppLovin below 600. All right, she finally lost 600. She's been flirting with it all week. Now she loses it. OSS is up 1.3. Adobe below 300. There she goes. I mean, the thesis on SaaS being dead is that AI is taking over, but these companies are still producing incredible levels of cash flow. So I really think it's a narrative-driven thing that all these software companies are facing, and I don't know if it's really justified. Salesforce as well, below 230. ASTS is a $40 billion company doing 15 million in revenue. So yes, and that's why it sounds crazy, but the contracts they're getting and the quality of contracts in terms of the runway, the level of commitment, and the ability for them to be an integral, essentially defense contractor towards various things the United States needs to get done in space is what I think is the real narrative, and quite frankly, should be able to produce many, many tens of billions of dollars in revenue. I think they have like an LOI or a backlog of multiple billions already, which makes the $15 million revenue look not as horrible. But this one's also getting bid up on narrative. It's just, again, that narrative is rooted in contracts that might have a shot of coming through. NVIDIA loses 190 right there, 189.90. UNH also down about 2% right here. Micron 365. SoFi, we did not look at SoFi all day. SoFi is below 26.50. Why not? Why not? Amcor getting dumped. Yeah, Amcor. It got dumped yesterday, then it rebounded. And now you're getting dumped again, down 2%. This one's still up 20% year to date. ASML also great story this year. Look at that, another 3% from 700 to 130 over the, or 1300 over the past week, basically year and a half. As this one continues. Grab, are we dumping? Are we losing 450? All right, 448. Let's see if we lose 440. As that was the lows of yesterday at 435. CrowdStrike is red. Beyond Meat, once again, down 6%. Yeah, M&O partnerships, IoT, first rescuers. There's a lot of means of revenue generation. I think that's the story on ASTS. There's a lot of different ways they're going to generate revenue. And the street's just pricing that in, which is not unheard of for the street to do on high-quality companies. These are the Beyond Meat energy drinks, by the way. It's called Beyond Immerse. Beyond Meat down 7% right here. It kind of looks like Celsius, bro. It looks like they're jacking Celsius' style. Like, it looks like a Celsius here. Who knows? Maybe it's the next big energy drink. By the way, where is Celsius? We haven't looked at Celsius in so long. It was up 60% last year. Celsius is $54. I think that's up at least 10% this year. Celsius year to date, 13%. All right, so Celsius continuing to be a decent name this year. Hood, are we getting dumped even further? We are getting dumped further. 108 below 109. It's ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly. And again, this is because of crypto. I don't think it should have this much of an impact, but that's how the market's treating it. The high beta will take you up. The high beta will take you down. Robinhood, very high beta. Crypto, high beta. If crypto's not in favor, then an asset tied to that is also going to get hit to the downside. Rocket right there, that's up 3%. ASTS now 12%, 114. TTD 52-week low as well, 114. What's the technical level for CRM? I believe Jason said it was 190. So, I mean, this thing falls down to that 190. I mean, it's hard not to be interested if it goes to those. I mean, it should bounce from here, though, because 227 is where it was before it got a run to 260 last year. But if we were to lose this, then, I think, yeah, 220, it was 225. I mean, technically this should be the level, 225 November 20th. And then it bounced to 260. So we're basically at the level where it should bottom out. But if it loses this, I don't know, things could get kind of ugly. And then I guess you have to ask yourself, at what point is the market just overreacting? Broadcom 350, that's nice. Broadcom at least getting some level there. Julian says you just rhymed high beta. If your crypto is not in favor, I will share this bar with Drake. Julian, you need to get, I need to meet Drake. For those that don't know, our boy Julian in the chat, he's actually met Drake. Julian, if there's ever an opportunity, dude, if I'm like in Dubai or something, we need to meet Drake together. I just need to tell Drake how much I love him and how much he's impacted my life. Although I don't want to sound like a fangirl in front of Drake, but one day we need to meet him. Need to meet the Iceman. 4570 on VSAT. Don't meet your heroes. There's actually some truth to don't meet your heroes. I'm not going to lie. There's some truth to don't meet your heroes. Like, there really is some truth to, like, when you meet your idols, shit changes. It's better as a memory to an extent of the idol. AMD right there, 230. As that continues to go a bit higher. S&P 693.65, that's holding up. Grab 445. You met Tom Lee. Look what happened. Okay, but Tom was amazing. Okay, when I met him, he was an awesome guy. There was nothing weird about Tom. It's just this freaking Bitmine thing ended up not working out right now. Over the long term, I think it'll be okay. But in the short term, it's been ugly. Micron right there, 7.8%. Kratos, that's up 3%. UNH, that one continues to go down. Robinhood, 109.56. Triple V, thank you. The $200 super chat. Appreciate you. If you guys are feeling the hood pain, I mean, so is Mr. Triple V. He has a lot of hood. And obviously on a lot of shares, this thing falling 10, 15 bucks is pretty ugly. So we're all feeling the hood pain. I mean, again, in December, this is why we talked about hedging hood. It's like it felt like it was just not going to have the same type of explosive growth, or the expectations to have that type of explosive growth were going to be a bit harder. And that's okay, right? You can't be super emotional about your investments. As much as I love hood, I'm also like, all right, the reality is Vlad can't control the crypto markets. And so this one might end up taking a hit. SoFi right there, 26.50. That one is up a little as well. Yeah, today is OPEX. I mentioned that in the morning, but I mean, options are expired. I mean, like, let's do an example. Someone give me a popular stock. Let's take a look at their options today. Let's do freaking Tesla. January 16th today. It's a massive day. I mean, dude, the 450 call has 46,000 open options for Tesla. 455, 27,000. Freaking 470, 30,000. These options are worth 2 cents right now. But when someone bought them probably months ago or years ago, they thought Tesla would be in the money. 480 is 17,000. Where's 500? 500 has 47,000 open interest for Tesla. I mean, this is just, it's a lot of options that are expiring today. Freaking 550 has 3,000 that are open. 560 has 7,000 that are, and this is just Tesla. I'm assuming if we go to Hood, Palantir, et cetera, we're going to see massive, massive levels of options that are open today. And so that's definitely something to watch out for when it comes to price action. ASML still holding on to 3%. Robinhood losing 109. Then Celsius 54.09. Wow, dude. Bloom Energy. This one, my goodness. I don't know if there's a catalyst today or if it's all the energy stocks. Another 7.4 here. Bloom Energy stock year to date, 51.2%. ASTS 117. I think at this point, people are just piling in. I mean, how else do you explain it? I think people are just piling in now. Unless the toots are going heavy here. What about meeting Karp and Vlad? No, meeting Karp and Vlad was like an exciting kind of approach to meeting your idols. There's other people I'm talking, I don't want to name it, but there's other people that are like, you meet them and you're like, oh, wow, this is not what I expected. Karp and Vlad were like, again, Karp and Vlad are like unicorns to me. Just like a different word, which is rare when you actually meet someone in person and they're like as legit as you think they are. And there's other people where you're like, dude, you're a clown. Like, I don't know why people even like, you're just a clown. You're a horrible person. And that's what it happens sometimes. Rocket Lab 97.50. She wants 100. Like, she obviously wants 100 here. ASTS looks like she wants 120. ASTS 16%. Goodness gracious. Rocket Lab 97. Duolingo under 150. This one felt inevitable. This was going to get hit. FOMO was insane at the beginning of the year. And look, the FOMO is only going to get worse. I mean, if you're not in Rocket Lab right now and you think you need a space play or ASTS or Bloom Energy, I mean, like, it's hard, bro. If people are stuck in Amazon right now, like, this is what I was talking about with Steve last night. It's like, obviously, the alpha has not been in large caps. And everyone wants to say, oh, well, I'm investing for the long term. But then when it comes to living through the day-to-day, especially if you're obsessed with the markets, it's tough to be stuck in Amazon and you see a Rocket Lab go up 7%. It's really tough. And at some point, I think people have a breaking point where they flip. Now, is that the healthiest thing? No. But is it human nature? Yeah. And I can imagine some people are going to want to just pile into this stuff. Also, if ASTS falls back to 100, that's a pretty big dip from 118 to 100. It's almost a 20% dip. I mean, people are going to buy that dip. Like, that's the beautiful thing about when you reach these new price targets. Like, once you have a dip to a new level, that level is now normalized as a dip buying level, when in reality, it should be like a 52-week high. But that 52-week high was taken out through another 52-week high. The video right there, 190. Are you buying Rocket Lab here? No, dude, it's tough to buy it here. But it's probably going up. But it's tough to, I think here's the thing. I don't think people are selling here at least like the OGs, which is why it continues to stay higher because there's a limited amount of shares. And if people are holding, they're holding. But buying shares here is a little tough. Open door right here, 651, that's up. Symbiotic. I mean, who's buying any of these? Who's buying Rock Lab here? Who's buying ASTS? Put in the chat if you're buying into, who's buying Bloom Energy? Who's buying Oklo? Like, who's putting net new capital to work here? It's a little tough. If you're trading, it's a little different situation, right? Because you could ride the momentum. But if you plan to hold Rocket Lab for like the next 5 years, buying it at 97, I just feel like there probably will be better opportunities, but then maybe there's not. Maybe throughout the year, maybe there's just not that many amazing opportunities. Buying Zeta. Pop more BMNR because I like pain. BMNR back at 30. Rock Lab $30 March calls are insane. Dude, I can imagine the I mean, isn't that when SpaceX is supposed to like think of seriously IPOing around March, April? That's when they're going to do their roadshow. Doug says Rocket Lab cannot be possibly overvalued here because the space TAM is going to be geometrically higher by orders of magnitude in 20 years. I think that's the argument that people are using to justify buying Rocket Lab here, which I get. I mean, sometimes the TAM expanding is enough for people to just buy the industry leader. I mean, that was kind of the story with Palantir, right? The TAM for AI was expanding. Palantir obviously was expensive, even at, call it $80. But if you can't put a TAM on the ontology, then boom, it goes higher. It's part of the reason I hedged Hood this year over Palantir, because although Palantir is more expensive than Hood, which, like, obviously it's more expensive, it's not as cyclical and tied to the market as Hood. Like, Hood is tied to the market, which is the biggest downfall of the stock itself. Whereas Palantir, you know, they're a SaaS company. They're expensive, but their contracts should be renewable, and you shouldn't have to worry too much about something like ruining the revenue. Whereas Hood, every single day, and the trades that happen every single day really matters for Hood. Obviously, Bitcoin matters, so that volatility is a lot more intense. Netflix right there, 88. Netflix has been stuck at this level for a while. S&P at 690. I don't know if BMNR got enough yes vote, but from posts I saw yesterday, the vote did pass. Tesla right there back above 444. But they didn't, like, this also pissed people off. Tom Lee didn't confirm if the vote got passed or not. He was like, don't ask me questions about the vote. And I'm like, it's a shareholder meeting. Isn't the vote really important? Like, so they didn't say anything, but people are saying it did get passed. Rock Lab back at 96.22. Silver, we didn't look at silver today. Is that up? Silver is down 3.4. 89. Silver down on the day. Why is SMCI up 10%? What is going on here? Don't see a headline on this. Let me see. SMCI. ClickHouse officially raised that $15 billion, by the way. Trump just said next week we're going to unveil a plan for letting savers in 401k retirement. Wow. Oh, this feels like a big deal. Oh, I don't think you guys heard this headline. I wonder what people have to think about this, and then we'll look at SMCI. Kevin Hassett says Trump is thinking of a plan to allow people to take money out of their 401ks and use it for a down payment on their house. Usually you get penalized if you take money out of your 401k, if I'm not wrong. So this is one of the administration's ways, I guess, of making houses more affordable, taking money out of the stock market, which kind of isn't that good for all of us. People just start liquidating a bunch of stocks to buy a home, but it's definitely good for the real estate market. I mean, bro, that, like, if imagine you're sitting on a couple $100,000 in the 401k and, you know, you need $100,000 to put on that down payment. Like, you sell your NVIDIA and you buy a house, I guess. NVIDIA right there, 189.50. I don't see a headline on SMCI, by the way. That's up 7%. We have something like this in Canada. You can already do it for a Roth IRA. Well, I guess they're extending it to 401ks. I would imagine it's without penalty. Yeah, it would have to be without penalty. That would be the point of it. Nabius getting dumped 2% down. This one's getting hit. Fly Aerospace, that one continuing to move higher. I don't know why Nebius is getting dumped today. Fly Aerospace, that's up 11%. 60,000 can be withdrawn from your 401k in Canada. For people saying you can already do that, I don't know why Kevin Hassett's saying that we're going to introduce a policy that lets you do that then, if you're already allowed to do it. Maybe they're introducing different ways to do it so that it's like more conducive. I don't know, but he says the president will be outlining this in his Davos speech next week in Switzerland. So I guess we'll see what the specifics they have on that. BMNR getting hit 2%. Rock Lab losing a little bit of steam, but still holding on to 96. ASTS, I mean, let's check resistance for 120. You can only do it on the first house. Okay, yeah, I would imagine they're going to apply it to a universal approach. I mean, that would help get people liquid to either get out of their current home or get into a new home. 120 has 48,000 shares. 48,000 shares at 120. Rock Lab, 700,000 shares at 100. Indices are dropping. S&P, yeah, there's your red candle on the S&P. Do we have any news at 10 a.m.? Macro, I don't think we have consumer sentiment today. No, we have the housing market index in like 2 minutes, but we don't have sentiment. We did get manufacturing production month over month. That came in at 0.2 versus negative 0.2 expected. And then year over year was at 2% versus 2% expected. So no major surprises there. Shorts after becoming on ASTS. Let me check the short float on that. Yeah, that's actually a great explanation for this. Otherwise, 20% move is a bit aggressive. 26% of ASTS is shorted. Yeah, the shorts are probably covering. Oh, here's the video of Hassett. Let me pull this up. Talking about this 401k thing. All right, let's pull this up here.
Davos next week, I'll be flying up there with him, is that we're going to allow people to take money out of their 401ks and use that for down payment.
Oh, well, that's interesting to take money out of your 401k. Do you worry that taking money out of the 401k is going to hurt people on the other side for retirement?
Well, what you have to do is come up with a way. So a simple way, we're still talking about the mechanics of it, but suppose that you put 10% down on a home and then you take 10% of the equity of the home and put it in as an asset in your 401k, then your 401k will grow over time as the value of your house grows. You'll be healthy, have more money for retirement, and you'll have solved the liquidity constraint problem and gotten yourself a house early in life. The president will put the
All right. That's what they're trying to do, I guess. That's what they are trying to do. I guess we'll get more details on that in the future. Adobe, wow, 3% down, 297. Robinhood as well. Ugly 107 right here. What about Coin? Coin is not down as much as Hood. Okay, so this is a Hood thing today. Why is CEG down 7%? How is Bloom up, but Constellation Energy is down? Constellation Energy is a pretty big freaking company. Oh yeah, it's when Trump forcing the emergency power auction. Yeah, that's not the best for CEG. It's great for GE Vernova, probably great for Bloom, to be honest, but Trump forcing that auction, yeah, GEV is up 5%. Yeah. That's not good for CEG. Yeah, it's bad for VST as well. That's correct. It's bad for all the IPPs, VST, CEG, etc. I mean, I feel like it's going to be a temporary thing for them, unless they really lose big bids on contracts. Another Trump headline that can take these names down. Micron losing 365 at 357 now. Rocket at 2416. Palantir got dumped, 182 to 174. That one wasn't able to hold on. Again, a lot of options expiring today. Zeta 2080, and then the Googs potentially about to lose the 330. Here's the housing index. Let me pull this up. And we'll keep going from there.
housing data just crossing, and Rick Santelli has it for us. Rick.
Yes, David, this is National Association of Home Builders Housing Market Index. Above 50, things are pretty good. Below 50, things are less good, maybe on the poor side. This number comes in below 40, 37. 37, we were expecting 40. In the rearview mirror, we have 39. 37 will equal where we were in October of last year. To find a lower number, you'd have to go to September when it was 32. In addition, this is the 21st number that has a thumbs down, under 50. 21st, obviously that means all last year didn't have anything above 50. The last above 50 was May and April of 2024. So in 2025, nothing above 50. When was the last time we had that? 2012. So hopefully 2026 will be a better year, but being a January number, we're certainly not starting off very strong. Sarah, back to you.
Okay, so obviously the housing market continues to be a bit frozen, which is why Trump is suggesting all these ideas. That number below 50 definitely proves we have some issues. SMCI, I still don't have a headline on that. I don't know why it's up 9%. S&P flipped red. If anyone has the SMCI headline, let me know. I don't see anything. It's, there's probably some options that are expiring and you're getting price action that's a bit weird. Nebby is getting dumped at 101. But other than that, not sure. Bloom still up 4%. Broadcom still up 2%. Could be shorts closing, yeah. Could definitely be that as a reason. Celsius 53. ASTS, are we still holding 118, 118.11 on ASTS? Who's buying Duolingo here? 150. This is just an absolute disaster. 6 billion market cap. Duolingo 150.3. Yeah, Iran is diverging from, look at Iran, 55 and Nebius 101. That's weird. It's a little weird. Maybe there's a lot more technical things going on here. Let's see some of the other headlines we have here. Obji, thanks for the super chat. Hi, Mid. I'm 60% down on Fiserv and Figma. Shall I look towards taking the L and reallocating the capital? I mean, whenever you're down on a name, it's very basic advice, but you have to ask yourself, do you believe or not? Do you believe in the thesis or not? And, it's a tale as old as time. It's like, if you're down on Fiserv, which you probably were bottom fishing on this one. This one got hit last year pretty badly. I don't know enough about Fiserv. I do know the numbers are pretty decent versus the price action, although the guidance was cut this year. But did you lose your thesis or not? It's really a very personal thing, right? When you sell a stock, it's like, did you just lose the reason you got into it in the first place? And if you don't have a good reason to get into it, then obviously it's easy to lose the reason to get out of it. But if you got into it with a real, trajectory of understanding what would happen, then it's very personal, because you have to ask yourself, is the market right or am I right? And I think we've all been through it with SoFi, Rocket Lab, Hood, Palantir, right? For a long time, we were more right than the market, but the market didn't recognize it. Google last year, simple example, right? 140. You probably felt like an idiot as everything else was running up. But eventually, you have to ask yourself if you're going to be right or not. So that is the long answer. It's a crappy answer because I know it's easier to be like, yeah, get out of it. But it really depends on your personal conviction here. Google right here at 330, TSM 345, Redwire, that's up 5%. Bitcoin still holding 95. That one is not completely going down. So you're saying buy Amazon. Amazon is always a buy. It's just not as fun as everything else. Well, here's a question, everybody. Do people think we've had too much fun in the first 16 days of January with all these high beta names and that we're due for some real pain? Or ASTS, by the way, crushes through 120. There she goes. Or was this the Santa Claus rally we were supposed to get? It's delayed. A lot of these high beta names were depressed for the past 2 months. and this is just naturally what should be happening. It's kind of what I said in the Substack a couple of days ago. I think there's a mixture of both. I'm like, yes, obviously these things could correct, but I also think there's some real reasons why they're getting bid up. Like, I don't know if it's pure meme-ish. I think if you said it's 100% a meme stock rally, it's a really hard take to be definitive on, because there are legit reasons why these names are running. Late Santa, a bit of both. It's rotation to small caps. People have just been lazy buying Mag 7. Now they understand it's spending too much CapEx. Well, I don't think the CapEx of the Mag 7 is what's holding them down. I really don't. Just, look at Google, look at NVIDIA, which still was up 30% last year. I think it's just because people are realizing to move a $2 trillion company, like, you better have a good 4 or 5 year time horizon. You cannot have a 4 or 5 month horizon. And a lot of these other names, you could have a 4 or 5 day horizon to get in and out of them, which is not necessarily investing. It's more trading, but still, that's where the capital will go. Meta, a little bit of a rebound here, 615 to 628 over the past couple of days. Maybe 615 was that bottom. 630 was where it was at 2 days ago when it started getting hit. It was at 650 on Monday. But did ASTS invest $200 million in Mr. Beast? This Mr. Beast meme is going to be all year now. All freaking year. What rally? I'm down year to date on Tesla, Nvidia, Palantir, Hood, SoFi, Amazon, BM&R. But see, all the names you mentioned are not the names that have been in favor this year. And those names are up a lot over the past couple of years. And I think that's the other thing. Like, a lot of those names have just become a bit more mature, like a Tesla and Nvidia. Like, the amount of work it's going to take for Tesla to go above 500 again, it's going to take a lot of just market dynamics, catalysts, new buyers. But it's easier for like an Iren to go from 51 to 55. Amazon is not up a lot. That's correct. But Amazon is just a special stock. Special is the word I'll use versus a different word. So, yeah, that one, it's tough for that to move. Yeah, Tesla just gave back a lot of that spike as well. ABCL, is that one moving? ABCL 430, that's up 3.2%. Jack did, for those asking about Jack Prescott, he did a live with Amir for like 3 hours last year. You can watch that on Amir's channel around ABCL. I can't invest in it because it's a biotech, dude. I'm not like, if I'm gonna have dead money, I can't put it into something where it either goes to 0 or it's 100x. Now, maybe it's not dead money this year, but it's just really tough to touch biotechs. Like, that's the one sector that I'm just like I'm open to a lot of biotechs. Is like, I just can't, dude. Like, I can't go down the rabbit hole of trying to understand all the chemicals and molecules they're working on. Rock Lab right there, 96.50. Yeah, trauma from 4 years ago. Thoughts on Netflix here? I do not like it. I do not like it. I just don't know what the massive bull case is. XBI, that one, speaking of biotechs, how much is that up year to date? That's a big chunk of IWM. It's probably up like what? It has to be up at least 5% this year. This is the biotech ETF, 3%. Okay. So that one's moving this year. I mean, biotechs did have a good run towards the end of the year. And then KRE is up 4% this year. Those are the regional banks, which are another big part of the biotechs. Trump is going to be live soon. He's going to be attending a rural health roundtable. Okay, I guess he's going to be talking about his healthcare plan there as well. Let's get a little bit more coverage on some of the other macro stuff today, and then we'll keep going from there.
In Davos, they've teased next week in his big speech around 401ks, perhaps more around housing. One area that I think we should zoom in on, haven't heard as much about it, but I think the White House should pay attention to it, is the food at home, what people are paying at the grocery on inflation. Yes, we got an overall CPI number this week that was pretty benign for December. It was less than expected. But what happened with food, as you can see the little tick up, the gap there is because the government shut down. We didn't get data then, but it's going up. And we had a 2.4% increase from the prior year. We got a 0.7% increase from the prior month on food inflation. And that was the highest we've seen in a while. It was because of a number of different categories. Cereal and bakery products were up. Meat, poultry, fish, and eggs up 4%. That was a really big jump on December for the year. This is year-over-year numbers. Dairy was the 1 weak spot, but fruits and vegetables, non-alcoholic beverages, all food at home. It was the highest monthly increase overall since 2022, David. And I think it speaks to the fact that whether it's commodity inflation, whether it's transportation costs, input costs, all keeping food prices high, that's going to be a tough one when it comes to affordability. And we know it's a big share of wallet. I mean, oil prices and food prices, that's what people spend money on, especially at the low income.
I mean, the affordability efforts so far that we kind of heard from the administration, obviously trying to get housing.
X is down again. Damn, bro. It's either an X thing or it's a Cloudflare thing again. If that's the case, then we got to watch out for StreamYard if this one gets hit. But yeah, and the affordability stuff, I think, is why Trump's going to be doing this healthcare roundtable today. Robinhood at 108.60. Coinbase actually goes green as Hood goes red. Once again, you're seeing divergence between sector leaders. S&P goes green a little bit, 692. That's wild, dude. This is the second time this week that X has been down. X is fine in the UK. I don't know, well, in the States, looks like it's getting hit. All right, what else? What else do we have? Nvidia loses 190. SMCI still up 8%. Grab holding 445. Amcor 50 to 47. This one getting hit. This one weird as getting hit given TSM. TSM at 344. Copen got a 1 million order. Okay, seems like that's why that stock is up. I'm from Portugal and X is down. X is fine in Singapore. X is down in Portugal. Oh, no, it's down in the UK. All right, so it's down everywhere. Dude, if it's down across the world, that's even uglier. Because that can't just be a only Cloudflare thing, I think. S&P 692. Where is Cloudflare? This stock is flat. Their stock doesn't go down, but their services do. X down in the UAE, X down in Belgium. Zeta full 5% retracement today. So let's see where this one stops out or bottoms out. That is surprising from 24 to 20. So, you know, I would not chalk this up to anything fundamental. It's the SaaS ecosystem. At the end of the day, they are still a SaaS company. And although they're growing faster than every other SaaS name besides Palantir, on a day where Salesforce gets hit this bad and Adobe, your smaller names are just not going to survive. Very similar to kind of the crypto names if Bitcoin goes down. Adobe right here down another 2%. Yeah, X is not working in the UK either. X is down in the Philippines. All right, we'll see when this reloads. A lot of financial news people get from X. Amazon flat, Tesla 440, Navitas up a little bit, Symbotic up, Open Doors up. Galaxy, nice back-to-back days on Galaxy, 33.73, as they've gotten a bit more deals. That one's still down from its highs back in October. Spotify right here, 506. Yeah, massive Twitter outages reported in the last 24 hours. I'm looking at Down Detector right now. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos told New York Times that the company's $82 billion deal to buy Warner Brothers will not hurt the theater industry. It's definitely going to hurt the theater industry. But they're trying to get this deal approved from regulators. Caterpillar, 647. You're not really seeing the entire market flip, seeing certain parts of it, but even those aren't flipping as aggressively. Iren's still holding on to 6%. Day 67 of Asking Amit to talk about Archer. We've talked about Archer so many times. Archer is an eVTOL company. They've got a lot of money in backlog. I'm still waiting for them to put something out into the world and like really show they can get an eVTOL in the air. The only reason I think someone should be interested in this is because they have that $5 billion backlog. Outside of that, I'd rather pay a higher price, but see the eVTOL in action. That's all. Joby has actually like put them in the air, but Joby's up 5%. I don't know. Archer's, it's gone back. I mean, ever since it broke from $3 a year and a half ago, it hasn't looked back, but it's also been stuck around basically $7 to $10. And I think it's because the street's like, hey, like, when are you going to put this thing up in the air? But they have enough money in the backlog, which would imagine that once it works, they're going to be generating tons of free cash flow, or at least tons of revenue, maybe not free cash flow. But until then, I'm just not that interested. Cloudflare, that goes green, and then TSM, 343. Yeah, Archer did get a pretty nasty short report last year as well. But again, the whole point of the short report was just like them accusing them that you can't get an eVTOL in the air and you're lying. And the short report was like, I'll bet you $1 million to charity that by 2028, you still don't have one in the air. So it was a pretty cocky short report. And it's up to Archer to be like, no, we can get them in the air. And I think this is like the year where you need to see it happen. Coinbase 241, as that one again continues to go green. SMCI still up 9%. We buying Gap Lovin right here. I don't know. To 583. Holy, this was 599 5 minutes ago. Goodness. See, some of these I just feel are really ugly falling knives. And I just feel like waiting for any level of confirmation makes sense. And also the question is, why are they, like, even with Zeta, it looks like a falling knife right now. And obviously it's because the SaaS sector is getting hit. So if Salesforce goes down another 2%, I mean, you're going to get better prices on all these names. Yeah, Palantir 172. My goodness. From 180. Again, we have a lot of options expiring today. So that 182 could have been a mean pump fake before the decline. You probably had a lot of people think their 180s were going to be in the money and then just got wrecked. How far do you think Hood could drop? My price target to the downside on Hood, same with Jason, has been 90. I feel like at 90, it gets very stupid. And if they're continuing to grow at 30%, they should not be trading at those levels. But we're going to have to see where the market takes it. Trump is live. Then we'll keep going from there.
In rural healthcare in American history. This is the big one. We're delighted to be joined by many incredible members of the healthcare community, including doctors, nurses, and pharmacists from all across America. We're also very happy to have with us some very talented people. A man who is really good at this, extremely non-controversial, which is, I wanted somebody non-controversial. So I chose Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. to head the whole shebang up. And he's also happens to be a great guy.
All right, so we'll see what clips we can get from that after this health thing is done. Let's get a little bit more macro coverage, and we'll see what else we have.
But they are
can't
cows.
fix it, right? Because it takes them 9 months gestation period and a couple years to grow large enough to eat them. So it's one of those things that you can't. Most of them, cities and exceptions, most of them, the downward earnings revisions happen. Okay, most people slightly lowered their 26 and 27 numbers for JP Morgan, for Wells Fargo, for Bank of America. So,
although yesterday
Morgan Stanley was better. Morgan Stanley was better, but their mix is better.
There is, and Goldman, by the way, also actually responded very positive.
Yeah, and I think their mix is better. And if I'm not, as an ex-Morgan Stanley guy, you're not going to get me to say anything negative about them. But like, I do think that you have to say, well, one of the reasons the market was up so much was earnings were up. Not so much for that crowded sector. So I'm just saying these are coming up. I did a risk dinner with a bunch of investors, chief risk officers, and part of that dinner is, hey, what could go wrong? What are we pre-positioned for? What are we worried about? And it was almost like I couldn't get anybody to say there's anything negative. It was the most bullish setup. Anything I said, people were like, well, I can't pre-position
Which
for
tells
that.
you what?
So
Things are not
historically,
gonna go well?
I would have said this is worrisome.
It's a bad sign.
It's a bad sign. I do think there's some things that could get worse, but I think what people are saying is like, what has history taught me? Don't worry about geopolitical things; those go away. Don't worry about if Trump makes things go down. He changes his mind by noon, or there's a new thing that happens. Or don't, I do think us people who focus on stocks don't love it when the president says we might change your business model and cap credit cards or not let you buy back. That stuff's hard from when you're trying to find ideas. But I think big picture, the one thing I can come up with that could really change the trajectory of the market has to do with something about the hyperscaler CapEx and sort of that path, because the S&P is kind of 2/3 an AI ETF. If you kind of look at how correlated electrification and power and
why
semis
we
are.
spend about 2/3 of our time talking about it here.
You should. Yeah, maybe 3/4.
Yeah.
So I think that if you don't get Goldilocks on that CapEx, meaning people need the CapEx to come up sun to believe the return.
But we are
is
getting
good.
it right now. You
We
saw
are.
TSMC yesterday. Couldn't have been better than what anybody expected.
Most
52
important
to
asset on
56
earth.
billion
Most important
above
asset.
what had been expected and going up from there.
But if it's too hot, so the Goldilocks also means like Microsoft can't come on and say we have negative free cash flow now, because then people be like, whoa, like let's. Right. So I think it's got to come up, but not so much. And Taiwan Semi, I think
they don't, by the way.
Yeah.
Oracle does.
Yeah, Oracle does.
Yeah.
Look, I used to be a semis analyst for a long time. I followed Taiwan Semi for a quarter century. They're considered pretty sober, so I think people aren't as pretty solid, and probably the most important asset on earth, probably Taiwan Semi. So
X is down for a lot of people that are asking. I don't know, guys. You're starting to see just like weird price action that's kind of recovering, kind of not recovering. Tesla just loses 443, got to 447, now right back down to 439. ASTS lost 120, but still holding on to a 15% day. S&P kind of flipped green. It really does feel like a day where market makers are toying with the entire market based on these options expiring. Yeah, it's strange. That would be the word for it. Yes, X is down for those that are asking. X is down. It's either a Cloudflare thing or a DDoS attack, or Elon didn't pay the bills or something. Brian Armstrong, once again, Clarity Act could have dangerous consequences. This guy is not happy with this Clarity Act. He is absolutely opposed to this thing. Bitcoin right here. Look at Bitcoin. Potentially losing. Yeah, it did lose 95 for a second. 94.8. As that one goes down. Conch, thanks for the 27 super chat. I dropped 150,000 into Nebius this morning. Have a great long weekend. I do not hate that at all. It is very weird that Nebius is red on a day where ClickHouse raises money and when Iran is up 7%. But thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I think Nebius will be fine in the next year. I think their next earnings is really going to surprise me. I mean, the year-over-year growth is just going to be ridiculous. Question is when they can get to profitability, and that might be a year or two away. But I think the street's going to give them the benefit of the doubt of getting there. Iran right here, 55.28. Stack continues to go up. Davis says, can YouTube be down so we can stop watching this? I hate Davis so much. But he still shows up to the chat all the time, even though I hate him. Yeah, $25 billion company with a $4 billion stake. I mean, that $4 billion is probably going to be more in the next 3 years. It's Meta a bull trap. Dude, it feels like a lot of things that are gapping up are bull traps, and a lot of things that are gapping down are bear traps. Like you don't have, like the cool thing about after Liberation Day last year is that for 6 months, everything was in the same trend, which happened to be up. So it was easy to figure out kind of where to position. Obviously, 2022, things were in the same trend, which was down. Here, you have multiple trends going in multiple different areas, multiple different sectors taking off, and multiple different narratives. That's why it's a bit more confusing. A bull trap is essentially the idea that like a stock's gapping up, it's going higher, you're excited, you want to buy into it because you think it will continue to go higher, or at least maintain its current levels, and then it gaps down. AKA it was being bid up for fake reasons. This is kind of where you get your sell the news type stuff. And it leaves a lot of people holding it back. It's the the tragedy of markets. You know, you buying something, you think it's going to go higher, and then boom, it's just like Rocket Lab. I mean, if this thing gaps down to 90, how many people are buying it at 96 right now? It's going to be down $6 a share, which could it go back to 90? I mean, like, it's not crazy to see this thing just fall back to 90. But if it goes to 100, you're going to get a lot of people that are upset they didn't buy at 96. Are Steve, Chris, and Matt and any other guys in Zeta? I think Steve wants to get a position in Zeta. Chris, I don't know. Matt, I don't think so. I know Tanner just likes Meta more than Zeta, which is fair. I mean, Meta, it's a lot more safer than Zeta, obviously. It's not going to have the same type of growth, but it's also a company with a very, very large moat because it's a $2 trillion company. 1030 dump. Are we at 1030? Yeah, we're basically at 1030. Nate, don't even argue that. Do not put in quotes a lot more safer. Meta is you are out of your mind if you think Meta is not a lot more safe than freaking Zeta. Absolutely, it's more safe than Zeta. Like, please don't tell me that's your concern. Meta or Zeta. It's about your English. Oh, because I said more safer. Okay, well, you have a point about that. I thought you were actually trying to say Zeta's a better buy than Meta from a safety, but I'm like, dude, I know you're a fanboy, but hold on there. Hold on there. Get wrecked. Dude, why do we have that stupid rule where you can't say more and then something with an ER? More safer. Like, it's not that. I hate, like, what, like, more safer. It sounds normal. Why does it have to be more safe? Or why does it have to be just safer? Why can't we just say more safer? I don't get it. It's the dumbest rule in English. There's probably even dumber rules. There's probably even more dumber rules. I'm doubling down on this in English. It sounds bad. No, it doesn't. It's more safer. How does that sound bad? How does that possibly sound bad? I don't care if it's redundant. It doesn't sound bad. The ER already means more. Yeah, so I'm saying more. It's just a double more. I'm trying to get the point across. Bitcoin losing 95, 94.7. It's more safer. I just, some of these rules are stupid. Wow, why is NVIDIA good? Dude, every day the same shit. NVIDIA losing 190, 70 cents from going red. That's why he lost to Denmark. Mind you, everyone, this guy was a top 5 debater. Okay, first of all, it was top 7 in the United States, top 3 in Europe. If you're going to quote my stats, you got to quote them correctly. Amit, how do you feel about silent letters? I think those are stupid too. Like, why is the G silent in lasagna? I don't get it. Like, if I could re-architect the English language, I would do it in an instant. Change a lot of things. My stocks are going more downer. Oh my gosh. All right, so 1030 slam, I guess we're seeing it on Bitcoin, Nebius, S&P, and Meta. Let me see if we have something else. I don't have any headlines from the Trump thing yet, but we do have a little bit of news. Okay, let's get some coverage on this energy story today. This is what is hurting CEG and VST this morning.
Electricity prices for consumers this morning, as the administration is expected to announce this hour plans to push tech companies to build new power plants across the country. The approach would push much of the cost of electricity generation for the AI boom onto the tech companies and relieve consumers of some of these surging costs. Now, earlier this week, we saw the president posting on social media that he wants the big tech companies to, quote, pay their own way for power. Microsoft told CNBC that it was committing to a set of principles designed to buffer consumers from the cost impact of AI, including those electricity costs. Now, with the plan under consideration now, what it would do is push grid operator PJM Interconnection to hold an auction for tech companies to bid on 15-year contracts to generate electricity. The Trump administration is working here alongside a group of Mid-Atlantic governors on this proposal. So we expect to see an event at the White House later this hour with Energy Secretary Wright, Interior Secretary Burgum, and others, including some of those governors, to unveil this project. So we should get more details on exactly how it will work soon, but that's the overall idea, Sarah.
Got it. Okay, we'll look for that. I think it continues the whole affordability push, as you mentioned, David. Power.
That's exactly right.
Top of the list now. Eamon Javers.
All right, let's stick with AI, at least, of course, which is the reason why power prices are in focus. Software names finishing up a very rough week. This is fears grow that AI in general is going to basically replace some of the key parts of their business. Our next guest says he has not seen software investor sentiment this negative in a decade. Jeffrey analyst Brent Thill joins us now. Brent, give me a feeling as to why that feeling is something you haven't seen in over a decade.
Yeah, good morning, David. We're at Deer Valley at our Software CEO Summit, and speaking with venture capitalists and CEOs of private companies, they're seeing it. Public companies are also starting to see this. There's a massive change in terms of architecture, pricing model, and right now investors just see a huge inflection in infrastructure. So money's moving out of software. You see it with the IGB software index down 6. The Russell's up 8. Energy's massively booming, as you just showed. And so many of the software investors are becoming experts on Bloom Energy and other initiatives, as Mark Zuckerberg talks about, tens of gigawatt build out up to hundreds of gigawatts, which could be, $400 billion to $800 billion of investment. So the attention is just really going to semis, energy, hardware, other names other than software. So right now the sentiment looks like Deer Valley. Most of the runs aren't even open because there's not enough snow. It's barren. And the sentiment's just awful.
Yeah, sorry to hear about the skiing, but I know that's been a real issue out there. Still a beautiful part of the world. But Brent, you've covered this area for a long time, so let's go through some of the real concerns, because I want to understand whether you feel that they are valid. I mean, whether it's an Adobe or a ServiceNow or a CRM, and on from there, a Workday. This idea essentially that AI agents are going to replace much of what their business does it make sense? And is it a real concern?
It's a concern. So you have to go back to when Mark Benioff started Salesforce in 1999. There was Siebel, and Siebel was the dominant front office. Siebel imploded. The company's valuation died off, and Oracle bought it for nothing. And when you think about what is happening in these big tectonic shifts, there's always losers and there's big winners. And I think many are perceiving the big winners to come out of the private market. OpenAI, Anthropic, others that are doing well. Even at this conference, many have walked up to me and said, I've rewrote parts of my software stack with Claude from Anthropic. And so I would say that I don't think that Salesforce and Adobe are done. I think that they have to pivot quick and adapt. And I think they are. The question is, are they pivoting fast enough to make up for this? And so I think right now investors just don't believe it. They don't care. And the reason why they don't care about software is that there's just a massive inflection in CapEx. So as CapEx dollars go higher, they're not going to be in software because we're not seeing AI as a percent of total revenue for our industry in software more than 5, 6, 7% of total revenue. It's tiny. And it's just not having a big impact. So
but if you talk to them, Brent, they say it's coming. They say that it's coming, with the AI. These companies, the Workdays, the Salesforce, they have all the data. I mean, OpenAI doesn't have this data, and that the data wins.
Yeah, as they say in Texas, big hat, little cattle, okay? They're preaching an AI story, but they're not delivering any revenue today. So this is a 27, 28 event. Many of the executives here are talking about 26 is the year of bookings, and then 27 is the year of revenue. For Salesforce, for all these companies, it's low single-digit % of total revenue. And so they can say what they want, but my job is to tell you the truth, which is the numbers today are tiny. They're just minuscule. And so that's why investors, 70% of our software industry is decelerating growth in the public market. That is not an AI inflection. There's an AI inflection happening at AMD, at NVIDIA, at other companies. And so, I think they're preaching a story, but it's not really, their points on the scoreboard read, low single digits.
But is it coming? Do you buy that? That it's 27?
We believe
it
it's
actually
coming.
is a 27 story?
Yeah, it's coming, but the challenge right now is investors have a short time frame and patience. And so for long-term investors, I think this is oversold on software. I would take advantage of it on the IGV. But tactically, we could go another 5, 6, 7, 8% lower because right now there's no proof in the front half of this year. It's all.
This is why I think Palantir continues to get its premium. What he's saying is right. There is no proof that AI is having a meaningful accelerating role for these software companies just based on the growth estimates they're putting up. And if there is the outside chance that a lot of these smaller companies like a Claude, which is technically bigger than Salesforce, but smaller in terms of the revenue free cash flow they do, can replace a lot of the things that a traditional CRM would have with like Claude Cowork, then that gets scary for the overall growth prospects of a company like Salesforce. So when he says there's more downside for the software names, I don't think it's just because of sentiment. I think it's also because people are not seeing the growth outside of a name like Palantir and maybe CrowdStrike that's putting up some growth, but Zeta, much smaller company, growing at 36%. But Salesforce and Adobe are not. I mean, Adobe's going at 8% year over year. As cheap as it is, there's not an AI story that's meaningfully attached to it. Salesforce right there, still down 2% on the day. Robinhood loses 108 again. Meta, I mean, it gapped up to 629, right back down to 623. S&P potentially ready to lose 690. Bitcoin 94.6. Nebius at 104, up from 101. SanDisk just went red. Did Micron go red as well? Micron's holding on, even though SanDisk went red. Ondas, which was up 10%, that one's now down 2% from 15 to 1260. So that one as well got a little dumpy. Yeah, red candles coming in. AMD 231. Resolve AI, this was up a lot yesterday. QXO's down 4%. Is X still down? I thought X had recovered. No, X is down. Wow. It recovered for like 5 minutes, right? X is down. Or at least for me, it's looking like it's not working. Yeah, the last tweet is from 48 minutes ago. It's not loading. It's weird, bro. X is still down in Texas. Yeah, this one's weird. Weird today. A couple of things we do have. Senator Mark Mullen sold $755,000 of stock. This was disclosed yesterday. So no buys. He sold Dell. He sold Goldman Sachs. Sold Credo, Coherent. So he sold a ton of different names. And then you had another politician yesterday that bought, Roger Williams bought Raytheon. But you do have a bunch of other politicians selling. Trump may put tariff on countries over Greenland. Oh boy. That could be another reason we're getting a little market volatility if Trump is putting out Greenland stuff. Let's go back to him. Let's see what he's saying. How much are you up on the hood covered calls? Let me check. We sold those at 125 on hood. 26%. So we got premium of 43. Those are at 31 now. Again, those could, if hood goes back to like 115, those will bounce up easily, but that hedge is protecting us to the tune of about 26%. All right, here is Trump live right now.
$100, but Germany's paying $20. We pay what Germany pays. So we go from a horrible situation on drugs, prescription drugs, to the lowest price anywhere in the world. Is that a correct statement, Oz? Because they're going to blame you. If you want to correct me, you can, but you won't be here for long if you do. They'll
You're
say,
correct, Mr.
Oz has
President.
left employment. No, but is that a correct statement?
That's absolutely correct statement. And that's what we want to codify in the great healthcare plan.
Yeah.
That's
what
why
we're
it's so
codifying.
important.
That's
Because if
right.
the president's not here, there's a flight risk with these companies not obliging us anymore, because I think it's the strength of your personality, but also they know they will follow through with the threats if we don't act. So we believe other countries will change their opinions, and so will drug companies. So we've got to get it into legislation.
Well, if you have the wrong president, the countries have tremendous influence over us. They look, why did we go to an income tax system instead of a tariff system? We had the wealthiest nation. If you go back to the 1800s, 1887, we had money, so much money, we didn't know what to do with it. But the countries at that time, same, no different. They have a tremendous influence over this country for whatever reason, I don't know, but they do. So if you have the wrong president, they'll change the system in 2 minutes. I mean, they'll change it. And the drug companies are very powerful too. You have to deal with them. In this case, it was both. I mean, you had a problem with the drug companies, but you had a tougher problem in theory, other than the fact that I understood how to deal with them. And I'm the tariff king, and the tariff king has done a great job. And I hope we win the Supreme Court case, because if we don't, be a shame for our country. Be a shame. We have a great, safe, beautiful country now. We're doing better than we've ever done. We hit 42 stock market highs during the 11-month period that I've been here. There's never been anything like it. Stock market's hitting a new high again today. So it's it's been incredible. So just to end it on this, because it's such a big subject and it can't be explained by reading. As good as my speechwriter is, he's fantastic, but he can't write it in one sentence what we're talking about. So we're going to get most favored nations. We will be taking prescription drugs down to levels never even contemplated. And that's all great for healthcare, because when you're paying a tiny fraction of what you had anticipated paying prior to today, prior to this month, this all took place over the last month and a half. And the sad part is that when we first announced it, and we did it in a little bit more general form, when we first announced it, the Times did a story on page 22 or something, way back in the little story in the back of the newspaper. This is the biggest revolution in the history of medicine in this country, because it's price. You're going to buy the drugs for a small fraction of what you were paying for them last month. And I tell the story of my first 2 years. It was a line that went from January to December, and it was dead straight. You had to get a little, like a carpenter uses to see. I said, this doesn't look good. It's not the greatest line, but I was proud of it, because it did. It went down either a quarter of a point or an eighth of a point, tiny. And now think of what we're doing. We're bringing medicine down by many times. Nobody's ever seen. And there are two ways of calculating. You could say 1,000%, 2,000, or you could say 90% or 80%. The Democrats want you to say 90 or 80, but there are two ways of calculating it. You understand that, Dan? And we'll take either way. It doesn't matter. But we'll be paying a tiny fraction. So that's going to go into our plan. And what Oz said is very important. It's very important that whoever is in this office is, strong and intelligent. And if they're not, they could, it could be ended. But what we want to do is we want to have it codified, so it's very hard to change. And that's all part of the process. I think it's the greatest revolution, because it's financial is, a big part of the drugs. And all of the doctors sitting there know exactly what I'm talking about. They have their patients in Europe, and they say, I can't believe it. I'm buying the same thing for, 15% of what I pay in New York or in Chicago. And
all right, so that's what we got from Trump on these drug prices. We are actually seeing some real red now come into the system. Beloved right here fell below 580 at one point. Some of the names, though, holding on, like an Archer, like a Joby, Tesla actually getting hit, Amazon getting hit, Duolingo still getting hit, Constellation, ugly 10% down. I don't know if he said anything that would necessarily get the markets down. Maybe some of that tariff stuff. Ren losing a lot of steam. Nebius was at 105. Now it's at 103. Rocket Lab is immune to any drawdown. Where is Rocket Lab? Wow. This has got to be stock of the year so far. I mean, this is pretty incredible, dude. Like, I guess the space narrative is just that strong because Rocket Lab, ASTS, all these are high beta, but they do not experience those types of drawdowns, or they haven't yet. I think based on that space thing. Yes, markets are closed on Monday. They will be closed on Monday. So we'll have to find some purpose on Monday, but they're closed. GEV's up 6. Yeah, let me pull up the heat map. So we've got couple tech names that are red. Everything's kind of or green. Real estate's up a little bit. Industrials with the energy stuff Trump announced today. Financials are okay. Walmart, Costco, all the rest of your tech stocks are red. Would you start a position in Melly? You know, Melly, I think, is one of those stocks you legit could hold for the next 10 years. I don't think it's going to give you the kind of 2026 outperformance potentially. They are dealing with a variety of different issues in Latin America, but their fundamentals are incredible. They're the only company that has grown 30% for the past 27 quarters. I mean, it's pretty incredible to put up that type of growth. But, you know, their margins are not amazing. They don't really have an AWS. They're seen as the Amazon of Latin America, but they don't have an AWS. Now they do have a payment infrastructure, which is where they're probably going to continue increasing their operating margins. But I don't know if 2026 it's like a massive, massive name or not. Planet Labs, that one's still up. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing a very simple theme that continues to be the case, which is so far this year has been the small cap high beta theme. NVIDIA 187.30. I mean, for people that thought NVIDIA would break out first 16 days of the year, get above 200, kind of shake off the 2025 dust, it's just not been the case. But a bunch of names associated with NVIDIA, much smaller, that play a role in the ecosystem, they have. BM&R barely holding 30. Bloom Energy up 5. Broadcom up a little bit. COPEX, that goes down. Silver and gold, ugly day. I mean, it's been a great week, but silver down 5% right here. Gold as well down 1%. Is the 10-year spiking? Yeah, wow. Okay, this is your actual reason, guys. Holy crap. We haven't seen above 4.2, and we've been close to 4.2, like 4.1, 4.19. Yesterday was at 4.67. I didn't do that on purpose, I promise. But it was 4.67. 4.2. Well, that's a little ugly. It's a little ugly. Why is it spiking here, though? Like, what's the cast? I mean, I know the Japan stuff this week has been, wow, X won't even load now. It's just nothing. I'm not getting a single thing. Bond yields, I mean, maybe one could argue this geopolitical stuff scaring off the credit markets. Can you explain what this means to newbies? Okay, so we have a way of financing the government, which are through treasury bonds. People buy those bonds, and we use that money to then pay for all the things that we have to pay for. Healthcare, education, yada, yada. So there's a yield that they get on those bonds as Rocket Lab gets 97. Just like if you buy a stock and it gives you a dividend, right? There's a yield on that stock. So when we're issuing bonds, we want to pay a really low yield because that's the interest that the country has to pay on financing our debt. If the yield goes up, that means we are paying way more in interest than we theoretically should be paying. But if the market's demanding that you have to pay this much interest, then we have no choice. So right now in Q3, we're going to pay 1.47 trillion in interest payments, which is 50% more than the defense budget, which is kind of crazy. But that's how we finance the country. When people buy bonds, the yield comes down. So it has an inverse relationship to stocks. When you buy a stock price, the stock price goes up. In terms of a yield versus a bond, when you're buying a bond, the yield goes down because as more buyers step in, there's less of a necessity for a guaranteed yield to be higher because you're having way more demand than supply. When people sell off bonds, which is what you're seeing right now as the bond yield spikes from on the 10-year 4.1 to 4.2, that means essentially the credit market is saying we need way more of a percentage, way more of a yield to be excited to buy this bond. And in 2025, January, this thing was at 4.8, which is scary. That's like 5% on trillions of dollars that we're having to pay to finance. We needed it to come down. The way to get it to come down is inflation needs to come down. The market needs to be more relaxed. Credit investors need to feel like, hey, we should be locking in this 4.2% yield for the next 10 years because that's an incredible yield to get a bond at. It's a guaranteed 4.2%. The only way that fails is if the United States government fails, which it likely won't, which is why treasuries are so liquid because everyone knows the United States is good for it as Rocket Lab hits 98. And so when yields spike up, it's not a good thing because it means there's less faith in our overall economic system. This is what Japan's been dealing with for the past 2 months is their 30-year and 10-year yields have spiked up to the highest levels in history. So them spiking up today means that bonds are getting sold off. And the question is why? Because inflation, I know PPI was higher than expected, but inflation is coming down. And the biggest concern around the yields is if I'm getting 4.2%, but inflation's at 4%, then it's not worth my time. But if inflation's at 2% and I'm getting 4.2%, okay, I'm netting 2.2% risk-free. Literally, I have to do nothing. Imagine putting hundreds of millions of dollars and getting 2.2% for zero risk. Like, you feel okay with that. But if inflation goes to 6% and your yield is at 4.2%, like, no, you're going to sell off the bond. Yields are going to go up and you're going to buy the bond back when the yields are higher to compensate for inflation. But inflation's coming down. So, like, what's the concern then from the credit market? And it might be a lot of this geopolitical stuff that's going on. At 100, resistance for Rocket Lab. Let me check 99 first. 99 resistance is 28,000. 100 is 122,000. 122,000 shares sitting at $100 for Rocket Lab. Grok is down too. Okay, so that the entire X company is down. Next little bounce back up to 105. Yeah, it's just this whole week has been bouncing up. And I mean, the S&P has basically been flat all week, 691. This is literally where it was on Monday. Fell to 686, gapped up to 695, and we're right back at the same level. I'm slow, Gad. I've been selling covered calls on Tesla. Yeah, covered calls on all the large caps have been doing great. Covered calls on NVIDIA, Amazon. I guess Google's giving you a little bit of pain, but that's and Tesla has great premiums too. They're covered calls. Would you sell a Rocket Lab covered call here? Seems like the 3-day weekend is a great opportunity to harvest premium. Yeah, you just have to be super conservative with your strike, I guess. I mean, I imagine there's a lot of covered calls that are in trouble today for Rocket Lab. But I mean, let's do the math. If we want to go out to even 120 for next week, how much are they paying? Yeah, even 120 is getting you 30 cents, bro. Next week. It's pretty incredible. If you want to do like 105, you get $2. I wouldn't do 100, which would give you $3.70 unless you're okay with selling some of those shares. But the premiums obviously are pretty strong here. A new intern must have pushed code on the X code base. Yeah, I mean, something is messing it up right here. Netflix 88, Upseller 420. Big Bear, this one's been flat. IBKR down 2% after gapping up yesterday on that stablecoin news. Trump started his healthcare event by praising Hassett's TV appearance this morning, then says, I actually want to keep you where you are. We don't want to lose him, Susie. Okay, so maybe signaling he will not be the Fed chair. I really wonder who's going to be the freaking Fed chair, dude. Because Hassett is going to get them what they want, but I don't think the credit markets will like Hassett. I feel like Waller should be the guy, but then again, I think it's going to be a bit difficult to figure out who it is. All right, let's go back to Trump, see what he's saying. We need Steve. If Steve was the Fed chair, inflation would go to 30% and Steve wouldn't care. He'd be like, it doesn't matter. Let the free market solve it. Which, quite frankly, a lot of people might not disagree with.
Covered that way by the fake news. And that's a sad thing. It will probably not be voted positively by the Democrats, and that's a sad thing. They all know how good it is. I think we can make healthcare into a Republican issue because the Republicans are going to be close to unanimous on this. It should be unanimous. Maybe we will be unanimous, but it'll be close. But we have a small majority. We probably need a little bit of help from the Democrats. So whatever we can do, we're going to do it. It's the biggest thing to happen to healthcare, maybe from the beginning. So Oz, would you take it away, please? Thank you very much.
Mr. President. Mr. President, thank you for standing up for American healthcare. And I just want to underline this fundamentally important issue. We need Congress to help craft the Great America Healthcare Plan. And the Great Healthcare Plan will work. It's a brilliantly conceived framework. And as it comes to the American people, they understand that they'll want it. And it should represent the analogous situation, similar to what you did so brilliantly last spring with the Working Families Tax Cut legislation that the president mentioned, has created the Rural Health Transformation Fund, which is why we're here today. I want to put a little bit of texture around why this is such an important issue, because the Rural Health Transformation Fund is the largest investment ever in American history in our rural communities. Yeah. 50% increase in the amount of money that Medicaid, which Secretary Kennedy and I regulate, into our rural communities, $50 billion. You can do the math, it's $1 billion per state, and that's an important factor because it got them competing. There's 60 million rural Americans, and these folks do not have access to the same care that's available in urban and suburban America. Their life expectancy, if they're in a vulnerable situation, is 9 years shorter, because your zip code actually is your destiny. It determines how long you're going to live, and we can make a dent in this because the high rates of chronic disease and...
Again, getting this passed through Congress, I think, is going to be the bigger question. Let's go to Secretary of Energy and see what they have to say around the tariffs with autos here.
That we should expect to happen?
So first up, I do want to lobby Lee Zeldin to make sure we get rid of that stop-start button. I hate it in these new vehicles. You know, listen, when you have Chinese car companies that are backed by the Chinese government, and we believe in free enterprise in America, it does make it more challenging. But I think the message of President Trump has been we want to bring all investments back to America, to have more manufacturing, more jobs in this country. And I think that is his point. But also on the issue of affordability, don't forget, in one big beautiful bill, our Americans who buy a brand new car that was made in America get a $10,000 tax credit when they file their taxes. So again, an idea that's going to bring down the price of a car. Before it was a $7,500 tax credit if you bought an EV. This is buy any American-made car, and President Trump and Republicans in Congress have put in a tax process that can give you a break, making those new cars more affordable. By the way, that makes it safer on the roads. If we're driving cars on average 13 years old right now, the new technology over the course of the last several years, if we get those cars on the road, if bad things do happen, you and your family will be safer because you have a new car as opposed to a...
Rocket Lab, she wants it. I mean, 99.50. We'll get back to that coverage around the tariffs on autos, and we'll take a look at that in a second. But goodness gracious, energy above 150. That's incredible. Rocket Lab new all-time high. I mean, 99. It's got to go to 100 today, right? They're not gonna blue ball us right here at 100. There's no way. Or at 99. Then again, this probably would be the exact place they do it. Is Rocket Lab the new Palantir? It's definitely got a multi-comparable to Palantir. And see, here's the thing. The only catalysts are positive, right? Neutron, SpaceX IPO. Like the only downside is valuation right now, which is very similar to Palantir, where the only downside last year was valuation. Everything else was going in the right direction. But, I mean, put in the chat if you're selling Rocket Lab. I mean, how many people are saying, you know what, I'm out. This is too much. Which, you know, also happened with Palantir, and then it went up another $100 after this. Why did Palantir drop? I think that's SaaS across the industry. SaaS getting hit. Palantir at their 173. Now I understand why Matt Money told his toxic boss to leave me alone. Yeah, dude, if you're heavy in Rocket Lab, your boss better watch how they talk to you today. Better watch how they talk to you today. That's got to be crazy, right? Like being in a corporate job and then just taking a look at your phone. Like if you have like 5,000 shares of Rocket Lab, you're up 40 grand today. Which, I mean, if the average salary is like 150, that's a decent chunk of your salary. And the average salary is not 150. I think the average salary in the United States is like 87 or something like that. Nebius 106, Ondas, that one gets hit, down 3. Roblox getting a little bit of a move today. That's up 5%. This was up earlier this week on a new game that went viral. Not if you had $90 covered calls. Oh my gosh. I just got the text from one of my boys who's heavy in Rocket Lab. His text, bruh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is a big move. All right, we got to get over 100 though. Got to get over 100 though. Average salary is 40K. I don't think the average salary in the country is 40K. Actually, no, you might be right. I was thinking family of 4, it's like 80. 63.7. Okay. It's in the middle. It's not 40, it's not 80, it's 63.7. This is by SoFi, by the way. SoFi put out a study on this. SoFi, this is updated for 2025, says the average US salary is $63,795. All right, so that's, yeah, around 60K. Is X back? Is it? Yes, I think. No, not for me. Not for me. Nope, still not working. Might be working for some people, but not for me. Rocket Lab, all right, this is it. This is the second attempt at 199.20. 99.20 here. Let me check resistance again. I think it's 100,000 shares. It's back in Bulgaria. 100,000 shares or 120,000. Who's going to buy 120,000 shares? How much is that? 120,000. That's about 12 million bucks. I have $93 covered calls today, having a hard time letting it go. Yeah, but again, if you obviously could roll them, right? If you really want to keep it, but if you do want to let it go, then you're going to capture some gains, and you're probably okay letting it go at 93. I got you. I'm going to do it. Chef Mike, you got to do it for us. What's the, let me check the options on this thing. So today, a $100 call has 15,000 open interest. That's up 600% today. And that might go in the money. The 95 call at 8,000 open interest. 101 is 1,600. So really it's the $100 call that has most of the open interest, 15,000. Fed's Bowman says risks to Fed's mandates is asymmetric with job risks outweighing inflation concerns. Okay, so that's a little bit more bullish on interest rates. Yeah, Fed Bowman says central banks should stand ready to cut interest rates again given labor market risks. Okay, that's dovish based on versus what Kashkari said a couple of days ago, which is he doesn't see any need to cut rates. The probabilities for a rate cut today are 5%. January 28th is the day of FOMC. Let me get back to that auto thing, and then we'll keep going from there. Yeah, Monday, the market is closed, for those that are asking.
10 or 12-year-old car or vehicles.
Impacts the Canada-U.S. trade negotiations as we relook at USMCA?
Well, I think it's problematic for Canada. There's a reason why we don't sell a lot of Chinese cars in the United States. It's because we have tariffs to protect American auto workers and Americans from those vehicles. The Canadians were trying to get some tariff relief on their own to get ag into there. I think in the long run, they're not going to like having made that deal. All that being said, American cars are still going to be sold into Canada. We have a huge market share there. And I think that the Canadians' dependence on the United States for their GDP, the United States is always going to have an outsized role in that economy.
The president just said that he might put tariffs on countries that don't go along with Greenland. And I wonder if that's something that you've been drawing up and working up. Is that going to happen?
So the president has been quite clear over the past year that we're going to use tariffs effectively to protect jobs here and get wages up here. But he's also going to use it geopolitically. Presidents for decades have always used sanctions authorities to address geopolitical matters. Tariffs is just in the long line of tradition of presidents using American geopolitical power to achieve American geopolitical goals. And so I'll continue working with the president on whatever he needs to do on that front.
Ambassador Greer, it's David Faber. On this question that Sarah asked, and that was raised, I guess, by the president, the idea of the Chinese building automobiles here in the U.S. I mean, is that something you could actually ever see? Obviously, you've been an outspoken critic of the Chinese system that uses state subsidies to, I think your words, chronically oversupply global markets. But could you ever imagine a day where we had the Chinese automakers here in the United States?
I think it would be hard for them to operate here because all of our cars now, right, they're like computers on wheels. And there are rules and regulations in place in America about the cybersecurity of our vehicles and the systems that go into those. So I think it might be hard for the Chinese to comply with those kinds of rules. The reason why so many countries want to come and build here is because President Trump has protected the American auto industry and all these workers here. I just heard today that 85% of auto workers voted for President Trump. This is the kind of situation where we want to make sure that the jobs are protected, that we are building here. And that's why the Chinese, the Japanese, the Koreans, everyone wants to come build their cars here in America. This is the consumer market. The tariffs protect the jobs here, and this is where they want to be. So I'm not surprised when I hear that kind of interest in investing in America.
I mean, if Trump starts saying countries that don't get along with this Greenland thing are going to have to deal with tariffs, it makes me really think he wants to seriously go after Greenland, outside of all the other stuff he's said over the past couple of days. So, I mean, that is another, and that could be one of the reasons the bond yields are spiking, is that is the risk the credit markets might think. I mean, because we're going to have to probably print a lot of money if we actually do something like that. Yeah, Trump floats new tariffs and push to acquire Greenland. I mean, and that should probably send gold higher. I mean, if the estimates are correct, it's going to cost $700 billion to acquire a new country. Like, we don't have $700 billion. I don't know. It's going to be very complicated. Rocket Lab cannot break over 100. It's got a ton of sellers around the rate. I think it still gets there throughout the day. I mean, if we get any reversal, it feels like it gets the momentum. But right now, obviously, it's getting hit down 99.5 to 97.30 at these levels. The Trump roundtable still going on. They're still talking about the health stuff. We'll get some clips from that for the close and see if there's any other major updates. But that's also where he said the Greenland tariffs could potentially be a thing. Is Iran up? Iran 50. Yeah, dude, 9% on Iran. Pretty freaking big move right here. Nebby is trying to catch up a little bit, but Iran is up. This was the Trump clip on Greenland today.
And I may do that for Greenland too. I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security. So I may do that. I'll give you a little. I'll take you out of that. In fact, that'll end up being the story. But actually, this is a much bigger story because we're reducing healthcare by numbers that you haven't seen.
Guess we're gonna see if that plays out. Air test systems, that one also making a nice little move right here. Look at that, 7% today. I think it's up almost 20% this week. Micron still holding 5. Hoodie still getting hit. Meta 623. That's flat. I ran up 8. And Palantir 173. All right, folks. I think that's what we got. Oh, hold on. Let me just play one more clip on the credit card caps. If this works. Huh. Okay, so we talked about this briefly. They're really trying to go for some Trump cards. This is how they're trying to do it without legislation. There's just going to be new cards that are issued at 10%.
Your thoughts on the president putting this in place? Obviously, Congress would have to codify this for law. Will these banks be forced to follow this?
Well, I think, we've been in conversations with the big banks, with CEOs of many of the big banks, who think that the president's onto something, that he's got a great idea that they could potentially voluntarily provide for people who are in that sort of sweet spot of not having financial leverage very much because they don't have access to credit, but they have enough income and stability in their lives so that they're worthy of credit. And so our expectation is that it won't necessarily require legislation because there'll be really great new Trump cards presented for folks that are voluntarily provided by the bank.
Your thoughts on the president?
Bro, that's wild. They're really going. So that was the plan all along. They're going to tell the banks to issue a credit card with a very specific APR. The banks are going to love doing that because they don't have to disrupt their actual credit business. And, they can make Trump happy by having a card that's suited for people that don't have access to proper credit. It'll also be a card for those people to build credit so they could eventually upgrade. And then Trump gets to say, hey, if you don't have good credit in this country, apply for the Trump card at 10%. Now, unit economically, will it work? I'm not sure, but I do think that's way better than the banks completely having to shut down their entire credit card business to capitulate. Yeah, you'll get a $100 credit limit at 10%. I mean, I don't know how it's going to work, but that's really their plan, that we're going to sidestep Congress by forcing Bank of America to put out a Trump card. That's quite incredible. That is quite freaking incredible. Tucker Carlson to meet Trump in the West Wing today. Tucker Carlson and Trump have not really seen eye to eye for the past year. So that's interesting that they're meeting today. There you go. That's how they're going to deal with the credit card stuff. Visa should be up on this. At least that means no legislation. Visa up a little bit right there. MasterCard flat on the day. All right, that's what we got. 15 days into the year. This is how the policy proposals are beginning to play out. Rock Lab getting hit at 99. Maybe she'll try again in Power Hour. Right now, not making the move. And then Tesla right there, 437. As that's red. Where's SoFi? SoFi 2645. Up a little on the day. Siege, thanks for the super chat. Schopenhauer once said life is a pendulum between bag holding and FOMO. Siege, I'm really liking this philosophy kick that you're on. Schopenhauer is an incredible philosopher, for those that don't know. But I agree. Life is a pendulum between bag holding and FOMO. Word of the day. Let's get through it. Word of the day. I'll be back on the close. I think Chris might join me on the close today. We'll talk some macro. We were supposed to do it yesterday, but we had the BM&R stuff. Maybe Steve will join. But we'll be back on the close in a bit. Sonder is the word of the day. Can you talk about the Palantir poaching lawsuit? I didn't even hear about that. Palantir poaching lawsuit? Is that them poaching talent from other places? Oh, no, this was a headline. This is an AI startup that's being sued by Palantir. Palantir is claiming they stole secrets from the company. I saw this. I have not looked into it. I will look into it, but yeah, that is a headline. I don't know if that's hurting the stock, but that is a headline that's out there. Sonder is the realization that every person you see has a life as complex and as vivid as your own. Walking through the city, he felt a sudden wave of Sonder, of everyone around him carrying a whole universe inside. It was kind of a boring word. Let's get another one. Give me another one. The market's acting like a teenager. Supererogatory? Supererogatory. Going beyond what is required or expected, doing more than duty demands. Sharing the full framework for free was supererogatory. Most people would have kept that edge to themselves. What are these words, bro? What are these words? How do we pronounce this thing? Supererogatory. Let's pull this up. Let's see.
Supererogatory.
Supererogatory. Okay. Well, that's our word of the day. Is this credit card thing bullish for SoFi? Yeah. I mean, if they're really going to do just 10% in some new packaged credit card, I think that should be bullish for all the banks. They just don't have to deal with a lot of this legislation. Just got an email by Hood. Has added multi-leg predictions. Yeah, they added combos, basically the parlays. So that's officially live on Hood now. And that's there. Sonder, thanks for the super chat. Well, your name was the word of the day. Thank you for the super chat. Amit, are you still holding BM&R? Yes. Again, did not love the news yesterday or did not love the presentation. Still holding it. I don't think it's a sell because they're partnering with Mr. Beast. It's just weird. 95% of their holdings are still ETH. So if you're buying it as an ETH proxy, then you're buying. But I did see a lot of people say I'm out. A lot of people just could not handle the communication yesterday, and that is what it is. Some people are going to be out. Do you own Iran? No. I own more Nebius. Not Iran. Rubric, that one's getting hit 1.79% as that's down. VRT is up a little bit on the day, 3%. Another data center play, Circle's up a bit. Hood's down. VG holding a nice little 5% as that's up. Sandisk got hit. Micron went up. Again, just like Nebius got hit, Iran went up. You're seeing a bunch of these different. Coinbase is up. Robinhood's down. You're not getting sector trends. You're getting stocks in certain sectors have a trend. Micron right there up 5% on the first insider buy in a couple of years. Affirm as well holding 4% move right here. All right, I'll be back on the close. If I don't see you guys, then have a great weekend. We will not be live on Monday because Monday the markets are closed. I found that out last night. I guess that's something we have to deal with. So we'll be back on Tuesday. Oh, that means Sunday we can't do futures. That sucks. Dude, this market, it's our purpose. What if we do just crypto futures on Sunday or something? Yeah, maybe we'll do Monday futures. Yeah, okay, maybe that's better. We'll do Monday futures to make up for it. All right, I'll be back on the close. If I don't see you guys, I'll see you Monday night. But if not, I'll see you on the close. We'll see if some guests can join in. Yeah, we'll try to see. Maybe Rocket Lab hits 100. And maybe the S&P kind of finally breaks above that 692 level. But, you know, this did happen yesterday, and then we reversed by 2 p.m. and everything was green, and then at 3:15 it dumped. So kind of the choppy nature of it has been consistent over the past couple of weeks. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.